Yeah. All right. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank, as we often do, I want to thank everyone in the audience for your deep patience as we have come out of closed session. We're going to go ahead and call our regular meeting to order at 7:31 p.m. And I'll ask our city clerk to please conduct the roll call.
Mayor Source.
Present.
Vice Mayor Matulik.
Present.
Council members Beginzer,
Present.
Gordon,
Present.
Ledeju, and Paul Maris.
Present.
I will note for the record, Councilmember Matias is absent.
All right. Thank you. That's going to bring us to item 3, Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand and join council for the pledge. All right. Thank you, everyone. The council did just meet in closed session, so I'll ask our city attorney for a report out from closed session, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The council did meet in closed session with regard to the following items: conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to California Government Code Section 549, 56.9D1. The case is Lee versus the City of Vallejo. Solano County Superior Court case as indicated on the agenda. The council gave direction to legal counsel with regard to that item. There's no further action to report.
All right.
Item B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 549, 56.9D2. It is listed as 3 cases. The council only heard 2 of those cases and provided direction to legal counsel. With regard to item C, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 549, 57.6. The agency designated representatives: Andrew Murray, City Manager; Stephanie Cifuentes, Human Resources Director; the employee organizations, VPOA, IAFF, CAMP, and unrepresented employees. And the council provided direction to negotiators. There is no further action to report at this time.
All right. Thank you very much. That's going to bring us to our presentations and commendations, and we do have one this evening, which is presentation of a proclamation in recognition of Black History Month for February 2026. And we have Councilmember Ledeju, who's going to be presenting the proclamation. We had our same invitees as last year, and we have to accept in person our representatives from NAACP. I also want to recognize our BWAPA chapter, Black Women Organized for Political Action, and our historian, Sharon McGriff Payne, and everyone in our community who always contributes to preserving and maintaining our history of our community. So I'll turn it over. To Councilmember Ledeju.
You guys are ridiculous. Thank you. Recognizing February 2026 as Black History Month. And I just want to say, I think this is extremely important. This is the 100th year. So whereas Black History Month serves as a celebration and a compelling reminder that Black history is American history, Black culture is American culture, and Black stories are interwoven into the fabric of America. And whereas the Association for the Study of African American Life and History has designated the 2026 theme, A Century of Black History Commemorations, to celebrate 100 years of formally recognizing Black history in the United States of America, as established by Dr. Carter B. Woodson. And whereas part of the global African diaspora, people of African ancestry in the United States have viewed their role in history as critical to their own development and that of the world. Along with writing Black histories, antebellum, Black scholars north of slavery started observing the milestones in the struggle of the people of African descent to gain their freedom and equality. And whereas Dr. Woodson focused the attention of the American public on the scientific findings of historians to turn the commemorations more forthrightly into a far-reaching, organized, and sustained effort to transform how Black people viewed themselves and how the world viewed them. He built Negro History Week into an African American and American cultural institution. He set the themes and provided materials to illustrate the contributions people of African descent made to history and modern culture. And whereas this year, as we commemorate the 250th anniversary of the United States independence, it is imperative to tell a story that is inclusive and accurate. And as we know, this is not in this document, but I'm at liberty to say it. As we know, the President of the United States has worked at every angle to erase the Black community. And I stand here to say we will not be erased. And our children will not be erased, and our future will live on. We have never had a greater need to elevate the role of Black History Month than we do when forces weary of democracy seek to use legislative means and book bans to erase Black history from American schools and public culture. Black history's value is not its contribution to mainstream historical narratives, but it resonates in the lives of Black people every single day. We are fondly remembering who we are, and we understand our significance in this community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Andrea Source, Mayor of the City of Vallejo, and the Vallejo City Council do hereby proclaim February 2026 as Black History Month and encourage all residents to recognize, celebrate, and commemorate our heritage and our culture, and continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, peaceful, and prosperous for all. This is dated February 10th, 2026, and the entire council joins in with her. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. T, as we close to you affectionately call you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this Black History Month proclamation. We accept this on behalf of the Vallejo branch of the NAACP. We accept it on behalf of our President, Patricia Hunter. And I want to invite all of you in the Vallejo community to join us on February 19th at 6:30 at the Vallejo Naval and Historical Museum for our Living Legends tribute. The community is welcome. We'll be honoring our Vallejo legends, Joe Jones, Mr. Foster Hicks, Delphine Metcalf Foster, Hazel Wilson, Alyssa Shank Stewart, and Linda Daniels. So we hope that everyone can make it out to the museum. Because honoring living legends is part of a much longer, deeper rooted tradition, one rooted in preserving truth, memory, and legacy. The very purpose behind why Black History Month exists. Today we have 4 local Black elected officials representing Vallejo for the first time ever. That deserves a hand clap right there. We have 2 Black women county supervisors who represent our county. Our very own District 1 Supervisor, Cassandra James, who is the first African-American woman to serve as vice chair on the Solano County Board of Supervisors. For the first time, we have a Black woman who is the superintendent of Solano County Schools with Dr. Nikki Parr. And so let's not let our Black history be in the past. We are also making Black history today. Black History Month began, or Negro History Week began in 1926 with Carter G. Woodson, who created Negro History Week, because he understood the nation cannot move forward if it refuses to tell the full truth about its past. And what began as a week grew into a federally recognized month 50 years ago. 50 years ago. America's been around for 250 years. Black history does not exist separate from American history. Black history is American history. Our ancestors shaped this nation's values, economy, and democracy, even when recognition was denied and contributions were ignored. Despite barriers to education, capital, and patents, Black Americans created everyday innovations we still rely on today. The traffic signal, modern refrigeration systems, mailboxes, dustpans, and a recent favorite, the folding chair. So let's talk about Vallejo. From the Great Migration to the rise of Mare Island, Black families came here seeking opportunity and helped build this city. Working in shipyards, organizing labor, building churches, leading civil rights efforts, and strengthening community organizations. Vallejo's own Black history is a story of contribution, resilience, and leadership. Black history reminds us that progress does not come from being a spectator. It takes action, collaboration, and the courage to show up and be a part of the change. As we honor Black history today, we look forward to continued dialogue, shared responsibility, and leadership that keeps Vallejo moving forward. We are residents first, and we welcome all who want to walk alongside us. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is a community special interest organization, part of a larger national legacy committed to civic participation. I submit that any neighborhood association, community group, or individual can and should be as engaged as we are in shaping the future of Vallejo. Thank you.
And we'll have you come down for a photo. Yeah.
We're going to take a photo, everyone.
All right, thank you all very much. That's going to bring us to item 6, which is our first community forum. And I'll ask us to go ahead and start the 2-minute clock for our first community forum. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the council on items not on tonight's agenda. This community forum is typically 15 minutes, and this evening we do have a packed agenda. I know we have many of the members of the community that are here for our agenda items. So we're going to take 5 speakers for the first community forum, and anyone who doesn't have a chance to address the council in that forum can join us for the second community forum closer to the end of the meeting. Do we have any speakers in person?
Yes, Mayor, we do have 5 speakers
All right,
signed
let's
up right
take
now
our 5
person.
in-person speakers. Perfect.
Okay, the first 3 in queue will be Eli Smith, Jen Seeley, and then Wayne Goodman. Following those three would be Gilda Ledesma and Daniel Boone.
Very low. Did I start?
Go right ahead.
So I didn't know if I was going to speak tonight, but given the events that's happened in the past year, what's going on nationally, I wanted to talk about something more general before we get into some of the specific agenda items on tonight's meeting. Throughout history, there have been many outbreaks of bubonic plague all over the world, as I'm sure you know. Perhaps most famously in Europe, where it was coined the Black Death. Towards the end of the 18th century, the plague broke out in China, and in 1899 it traveled across the Pacific Ocean to Hawaii. Spread by the fleas that jump off of rats, cases began increasing at an accelerated rate, resulting in much public outcry against Hawaii's Chinatown residents. State officials, including the State Health Board, held emergency meetings. One official spoke up. "Fire will cleanse us," he said. "It is the only option," he said. "We must do this or do nothing," he said. One by one, the other members agreed, and they made the decision to burn the homes of any family or individual who was infected. Predictably and catastrophically, control of the burn was quickly lost, and all of Chinatown burned to the ground. Soon after, a rat hitched a ride on another ship to San Francisco, and the plague came for us. It took several years of death, multiple scientists, multiple lawsuits, and several different failed municipal policies to bring the infection rate down. Public outcry towards Chinatown continued, accusing scientists and residents alike of trying to harm the economy. The final solution was a multi-pronged initiative involving equal parts community and scientific data-informed strategy. The trust of the Chinese American community had been broken and needed to be repaired. I say this because we as a city often find ourselves in a similar situation. Vallejo has many public health problems, most of which are the end result of a series of systemic failures, all of which will require a multifaceted approach to heal. As someone who stands on facts, community, and experience, I come to these meetings and I often hear, "There is no other way. We've tried everything. There is nothing else that we can do." So I ask during this meeting and future meetings that when solutions are brought to you, that you beware the cleansing fire. Turn a critical eye not only to what is being offered, but to what is not being said. Ask who is in the room and who is not. Moving forward will take all of us, and true understanding of our complex issues will not come from a brief and an agenda packet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Jen Seeley.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jen Seeley, and I'm a proud Vallejo resident. I'm here tonight to share why I chose to serve on the Solano County Civil Grand Jury and to encourage others in our community to get involved. I made a decision to serve because I care deeply about Vallejo and Solano County. Like many residents, I see both the challenges we face and the tremendous potential of this beautiful city and county. Serving on the Civil Grand Jury is my way of contributing to the solutions and strengthening the systems that serve our community. The Civil Grand Jury is an independent body of residents that investigate local government operations to promote transparency, accountability, and efficiency. Our role is not punitive nor political. It is a powerful oversight body that has a broad authority to access information, conduct independent investigations, and issue public reports. Agencies that receive findings and recommendations are required to formally respond. This process creates real accountability for a stronger, more effective government and greater public interest. I want to encourage other Vallejo residents to serve. You don't need a government background, you just need a willingness to learn, work collaboratively, and commit to objective, fact-finding public service. Vallejo benefits when our community is represented at the county level, and I encourage interested residents to apply. Also, the civil grand jury relies on the community to help identify issues that deserve review. Any resident can submit a confidential complaint form to request that the civil grand jury investigate a concern related to local government. This is an important tool for community voices to be heard and for potential issues to be investigated thoughtfully and independently. You can find more information on the Solano County Court website at solano.courts.ca.gov. Thank you for your time and your interest in our community.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Wayne Goodman.
Thank you. Hi, if you've been to any city council meeting in the last 7 years, you've probably seen me or Stephanie Perry. We first started serving together in 2008, and this is my 8th term. I think it's your 8th term too as well. I also want to recognize one of our former forepersons is in the audience tonight, Rami Qualls. Okay, thank you for being here. I really appreciate what Jen had to say. My story is fairly similar. Something happened here in our wonderful city of Vallejo in 2007 that very much upset me, and I wanted to be able to do something about it, and I didn't know what it was. And in the weeks ahead, there was an ad in the newspaper that the civil grand jury was looking for volunteers. Ding. So that started my service with the grand jury, and I've been doing that for a long time. Just want to let people know there's 3 requirements. You have to be 18 years old, you have to have lived in the county for at least a year, and you cannot be have any felonies on your record. So other than that, you know, and we're always looking for people who have worked in the public sector because you know how the system works. So when you're getting ready to retire, if you're looking for something to do that's not 40 hours or 40 plus hours a week down to 0, this is a great way to continue your service at a lower rate. 10 to 20 hours a week is pretty much what we do. And I have had the wonderful experience of going to various city council meetings throughout our county and talking to people about grand jury service. And I've gone to some local service organizations. I've done Lions and BWAPA. I went to a BWAPA meeting. That was a lot of fun. And I continue to do this. I call myself the biggest rah-rah in the county for grand jury service. If you want to talk to us, we'll be standing in the back of the room for a while, and I will let some other speakers have the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Gilda Ledesma.
I'm here for 2 reasons. One of them is I live on the corner of Georgia and Schaefer, and there are trees on my street that when I called the city to have them maintained, they stated that it wasn't their responsibility because they filed bankruptcy. It was in the hands of the homeowners. Well, I looked into that, and because it's on city property, homeowners cannot maintain those trees. If something happens during the time they're maintaining the trees, then it falls on the homeowner, and the city can sue the homeowner. It is not the taxpayer's responsibility to maintain city streets. We already pay taxes for that. So therefore, the city needs to address that issue and do something about the trees on Schaefer in Georgia. There's a homeless encampment right across the street from me that have set those trees across the street from my house on fire. Those trees are hanging over my house, and they are a danger because I have a fireplace. I can't light my fireplace because the trees weren't trimmed. My homeowner sent someone over to trim the trees around my fireplace so I could use it because I cannot afford to pay the prices of PG&E without having some kind of supplemental heating. I'm disabled and I cannot be cold. I get cold and I'm like the Tin Man, I can't move. Another problem I have is with the Vallejo Housing Authority. I've come across quite a few people in my search that are having problems keeping a housing voucher because their voucher doesn't give them enough time to find a place. And it's so hard in Vallejo, and I know because it took me 5.5 months to find a place for me to move into that would accept my housing voucher. I've had several landlords tell me that, oh, you don't qualify because of your income. Well, as of January, that was out the door. They couldn't do that to me anymore. I literally had management company accept my Section 8, turn around and give me back my deposit because they didn't want to deal with Section 8. I waited 30 days and noticed the house was still empty, and I approached them and said, look, you guys could have had this house rented by now and got paid had you rented it to me. Well, they told me to fill out another application. They tried to do the same thing to me, and I stopped them. I got them to rent it to me. But the main thing I'm complaining about is Vallejo Housing Authority has numerous issues. One of them is they have sent me papers that belong to a whole nother client. I contacted that client and told her, look, you don't have to worry about your papers. I have them to notify her that I got her papers, which is really a breach of her confidentiality. Another thing is I have been paying overpayments since 2018. I overpaid my rent from 2018 to July of 2019 when they notified me and said, oh, the landlord owes you $1,600 and something dollars, and you need to collect from the landlord. Well, that was like pulling teeth. I got all of it back but $200. Well, 2 other times I paid over and never got anything back. The fourth time was just recently. I've literally been paying $619 out of less than $1,300 a month for the last year. I have gone over this with them numerous times. I literally have a stack of bank statements that they've asked me for on more than one occasion, which I've sent them at least a half a dozen times.
Time.
The more I send them, the more they want. And I believe the city of Vallejo owes me some money.
So what we can do, Mr. Ledesma, thank you for addressing us. We can, if you're willing to leave your contact information with someone from our city manager's office, we can make sure someone gets back to you. Well, so let's leave we have to close the comment now, but if you would please leave your information, we'll make sure that someone follows up with you. Thank you.
And the next speaker is Daniel Boone.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I just have a couple of topics I want to talk to you about tonight, and I know that there is a Mare Island issue on the action calendar, but my comments are going to be different than that item. The first comment I have is to encourage you to view Mare Island and all of the issues that are going to be coming before you regarding Mare Island over the next couple of months as a city asset. Because when you go to the website of the gentleman who owns most of Mare Island, you will find that he lists Mare Island as one of his key assets. He's a billionaire, and that's how he looks at the world. Mare Island's an asset. But it's also a key city asset, which has sat not helping the city very much for the last 20 years. So as you approach these Mare Island issues over the next couple of months, I'm encouraging you to look at them with that in mind. Mare Island is a major part of the future of Vallejo. I'm not sure I could think of a greater asset or opportunity for development within Vallejo than all that undeveloped property out there on Mare Island. So I think you've got to look at it in that sense. And tagging on to that, I'll just reiterate a point that I have made before. As you are looking at Mare Island as one of your key assets, you really need to consider having outside negotiators representing the city in any negotiations you have with Mare Island Company, or I'm not casting any aspersions on Mare Island Company, but they work for the billionaire, and he's going to send his best negotiators to cut the best deal he can. You've got to do the same thing. I also want to remind you that I have sent to you Section 309 of the DDA on Mare Island, and you do not have to wait for the specific plan to start talking about new CFDs now. You don't have to wait on Mare Island Company, because if you'll read Section 309 that I have sent to you, or I'll resend it if you like, Mare Island Company has promised to pay for the new CFDs, and also promised to support any new CFDs that you come up with.
Thank you. So that is all our in-person speakers and our time for the first community forum. Anyone wishing to address the council online, there will still be an opportunity to do so later in the meeting. We have been attempting to close in the 10 to 11 p.m. range, so we hope that that second community forum will be a little bit earlier in the evening in order to improve access for those that want to comment. So with that, we'll move on to item 7, which is our consent calendar and approval of agenda, and we'll open up public comment on the consent calendar at this time. And do we have any commenters yet on these items?
There's no one that's signed up for the consent calendar.
Okay, so while we let that clock roll, do we have requests to pull items from the consent calendar? And I see Councilmember Gordon.
Yes, I'd like to pull E.
All right, so we'll pull item E and we'll make that item 8.1. Any other requests? I'm not seeing any. Do we have any commenters?
No speakers at this time,
All
Madam
right,
Chair.
why don't we close public comment on this item, and I'll look for a motion to approve the consent calendar and agenda with that one change.
I move that we approve the consent calendar and approval of the agenda, while moving item 8E and making that 8.1.
All right, we can go ahead and vote on that. Has everybody voted?
I need one more vote. There we go.
I'm looking at all y'all.
I think the motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
All right, thank you very much. That's going to bring us to our new item 8.1, formerly item 8E, adopt a resolution confirming and consenting to council appointments to various commissions, boards, and committees for the year 2026. And I will turn it over to Councilmember Gordon, who pulled the item.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I had a question because I wanted to address this appropriately, and it was stated that that the positions that are appointed is through the mayor only, and I was assuming that as a new elected council official, I would be that we would switch off every year as we have the option to switch chairs. For us to be properly represented, learn, be part of, I felt like that we should all be given a fair opportunity. But I wanted to be clear that what has been best practice is not actually fact. So I wanted the city attorney to please clarify that the positions that are appointed is not only through the mayor, because it has been written through the code that that is not all actually facts. And what I worry about is not saying that this particular council or mayor is doing certain things to not be fair with the positions and appointees, because I want to make sure that no one misunderstand that. But it makes it look like we all don't get a fair chance to sit on various boards and various positions. So I have written that I would like to make sure, one of my requests tonight would be that to ask council to support that we make sure that it is in the code appropriately the way it has been best practice. Right now, I was assuming that we would get to sit on various boards, and it's not that case. And I just really want to challenge that. I'm trying to be careful with my words, but because I don't want to be misunderstood, but I think it's important that we given the fair chance to sit on various boards, because right now it looks like either favoritism or not giving a fair opportunity, put it that way. So I would like to know if we can please go back to how it's supposed to be. So because I have it here and I have an extra copy for anyone who needs it, the roles of the council liaison, that which would be in the code of 2.6.160, and then also in the MC code is 2.02.350 of appointed of boards, and none of it says that it's through the mayor. So if it's been best practice, but it isn't official. And so I want to make sure that we could please revisit this and do the same process as we did in 2025. That we get to select what we would like to do and we vote on it appropriately. Instead of someone appointing, saying, it's kind of like you're saying, oh, I don't think you qualify for that, but you qualify for this. So can you please clarify for us, the city attorney, of the code?
So I do believe that the city clerk did send a memorandum to all council members sometime earlier this week. There are 3 existing sections of the municipal code that address 3 different types of appointment. The first is appointments to citizens to boards and commissions. So that's not council appointments of you all.
Right.
That's the appointment of someone who applies to, say, be on the Beautification Commission. I'm just using that as an example. Those appointments per section 2022350A of the municipal code are made by the full council. Second, the appointment to city council standing and ad hoc subcommittees composed solely of council members are made by the mayor with the consent of the council. That is section 202.350E. The third category, pursuant to 2.26160A, the mayor appoints council members as council liaisons to the city's boards and commissions in his or her discretion. So that's internal boards and commissions that are the city's boards and commissions. There is no provision of the municipal code that exists currently or the charter that addresses appointment to outside boards and commissions, such as countywide agencies or other. It's just not in our code. It is in some instances in the charter for those agencies. My apologies. It is in some instances in the charter for those agencies. You can see for some of those on your list what it is. Sometimes it says automatically it's the mayor, and then an alternate is appointed. Some do not contain those restrictions. Your past practice, as I have been told from those who have been here even longer than I have, has been to deal with those by what amounts to a mayor appointment with concurrence or a lack of concurrence by the council, meaning the mayor makes a first cut at those, and that then the council votes yes or no with regard to those. So that has been what you have done in the past. That final version is, as I said, not necessarily in our code, and it couldn't necessarily be in our code as to when a charter or something for those outside agencies controls. That's not for us to control. But that is the scheme that we have currently. If the council wished to change any of those, it would be a change to or an adoption of the municipal code. You could decide not to follow past practice and adopt some other practice, but we would need to look at, in each instance, for each board and commission, whether it is governed by that agency, that outside agency's bylaws, because you would not be able to override those. Is that clear?
Thank you. So that is my request, that we can do clarification and amend that is my request, that for moving forward, because I would like for us to, because what if we didn't want that position? Or what if somebody wants to switch off? It's important because we should all be given the opportunity to sit on various boards, not just assume that that's going to be there for that one particular individual, because it is important that we're all involved. We represent a lot, and then also an opportunity to learn, to govern our city, govern our county, but if we're not given that opportunity, then it doesn't appear to be equal or fair, and it's almost punishing, it feels. So I just want to ask us if we can please redo what we did. If we can decide what chairs we want to sit in, we should be able to decide what boards and commissions that we get to be on. Or switch off, make it even, make it fair. Thank you very, very much for letting me share.
So I'll add some clarification that last January, as per the process, we had the city clerk and Eric from the mayor's office solicit preferences from the city council for all of the boards and commissions, and we took great care in looking through the council members' preferences, keeping things equitable with the number of council members that were on certain boards, and then checking in and making recommendations that were, required compromise from everyone, but that were acceptable to everyone on the council. And the decision that I made this year, beginning 2026, primarily for efficiency purpose, but also because we are in the midst right now of a review of our city boards and commissions, and we have all of our commissions working on work plans and budgets and presenting to the city council next month, I made the decision that it was in the best interest of the city to keep everyone as liaisons on the existing commissions that they're on, and that we'll do the process and shuffle next year, with one exception, which was that with the consent of council members Matulik and Legeju, now Vice Mayor Matulik, I made the recommendation of swapping the alternate for the Solano Transportation Authority and the Solano County Water Agency to better match the needs and preferences. I felt it was better serve the city and the citizens of Vallejo if we swapped those alternate positions. Those are both the boards that I'm on by statute. So that was my recommendation, and I'd like the city council to vote on that recommendation. I'll also add for context that it is impossible to put everyone on every board that they want, and that, so Councilmember Gordon, in your case, you are actually the only council member that sits as a voting member of an external board on Soltrans. So you actually have one of the best assignments of anyone. So if we were to shuffle, that would mean that another council member would get an opportunity to serve on Soltrans. So I'm just saying it goes both ways. And our office took great care to make sure that we assigned everything equitably, and I've decided that it's in the best interest of the city for us to keep that for an additional year so we can better serve our residents. We'll have the council vote on that. The council is welcome to vote down my recommendations, and we can make additional recommendations, but my suggestion is that we go ahead and move to approve these assignments with that one change, which was just swapping these two alternates to better meet our needs for those boards. So with that,
1 second.
I will go ahead, Councilmember Gordon, and then I'm going to ask for a motion.
So I want to thank you so much for clarifying, but I did ask to sit on STA. I have been on the STA since one way or another for almost 10 years, but not as a voting member.
So I'm gonna just pause you real quick. That's actually one of the ones that's by statute. I'm on STA by statute.
Okay, just let me finish, if you will, please. Okay. And I actually only sit on less than 7 boards and only 1 outside. And I think that is the problem that came up was that people were surprised that I wasn't on STA. But I do respect what you're saying, because you're right, we are changing, but I want to make sure that for future reference that we do get an opportunity to sit on other ones like the water board or whatever else, other ones. We can keep it. Just because it's out there doesn't mean we have to sit on it. But I just want an opportunity, a fair opportunity. That's my point. And so thank you for taking the time to explain. And I do agree with you that we are visiting to see what boards that we need to be on, or committees that may not need to be existing, as we're blending in other ones as well. I understand that, but I just ask for future reference to make sure that we all equally get to sit on various boards. Thank you for this opportunity.
Great. Councilmember Burgenser.
Councilmember Gordon, first to say you're welcome to have any and all of the commissions that I sit on, so you have at it. But also, I would just venture to say that since you were a member of STA for the last 10 years on different capacities, that you really wouldn't be gaining knowledge that other council members who have not been on STA be afforded. So your argument is actually working against you on that one commission, if that makes sense. So.
Unfortunately, I wasn't a voting member, so it made it very challenging. That's why. Thank you.
All right.
But you can still have my commissions if you'd like them.
All right,
Just let
I'm
me know.
keeping the
I'll
assignments
take
the
them
same,
all.
and I'm going to have Councilmember Burgenser stay where he is. You all are joint on one commission, so you can't take that one. With that, do we have a motion on this item?
Yes. I move that we adopt a resolution confirming and consenting to council appointments to various commissions, boards, and committees for the year 2026.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
All right, that's going to bring us to our action calendar, and I'll ask our city clerk to announce item 9A, please.
Receive update on unhoused situation, 2, provide direction to staff on city programs, and 3, authorize the city manager to allocate up to $1,000 for a program for lived experience stipends.
All right, thank you. So we'll go ahead and open up public comment on this item for anyone wishing to address the council, either in person or online. You can sign up at the kiosk or raise your hand online, and we will take public comment after our staff presentation. We have Assistant City Manager Conley and Assistant to City Manager Natalie Peterson. Take it away. Thank you both.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Thank you for the introduction. We will go ahead, next slide for me, Manny, and give just a quick overview. So as council is aware, on January 13th, you approved a temporary pause on encampment removals through February 15th at the request of the continuum of care related to the point in time count. We're going to give you guys a quick update on the pit count, encampment removal pause, and outreach update, warming centers, lived experience stipends request, a homeless roundtable, designated parking and camping update, and White Slough overview. Next slide, please. So the 2026 point in time count was held a couple weeks ago, January 29th, for Solano County. Individuals participating in Vallejo's portion of the countywide pit count met at City Hall at 6:30 a.m. and we began our count at about 7:30 by the time we were done with our briefing and exited into the field. We organize this is organized and planned by the continuum of care with support from community members and representatives from all of the cities involved. It is facilitated by volunteers, local resource providers, nonprofits, religious organizations, and city and county staff. We had approximately 80 volunteers who signed up, and approximately 45 of those volunteers showed up the morning of the point in time count, and they were divided into 8 teams. We did have a smaller number of volunteers than we were hoping, which did impact the count a bit. Staff were informed well after the count that some teams did not finish counting their areas, or that they had switched over to doing just observations during the count, which I'll get into a little bit more detail on the next slide, versus doing interviews due to personal time constraints or losing too many individuals in their group to be able to conduct all of that. The larger teams would have allowed for more interviews to be conducted during the time period and gathering a little bit more of the data. But I do want to very much thank everybody who did sign up to volunteer and were able to come out. We could not do this effort without our volunteers. Next slide. So the data collection portion of this, teams are assigned to what are considered high probability areas to conduct the point in time count. High probability areas essentially mean that it's been reported with known locations of encampments, or there were a decent number during the 2024 point in time count of interviews that occurred in that location. So within reason, there is likely an encampment or individuals to conduct interviews with. Interviews, whenever possible, we were asked volunteers to conduct the interviews, as this helps us to gather the demographic information on our city's unhoused population, which helps us to better understand the community that we're serving and what potential resources we need to be looking for that maybe we're not actively tapping into or don't have enough of for the population. The observation of a person counts the individual but doesn't necessarily gather that demographic data that we find helpful. And observations of structures includes tents, structures, cars, RVs, boats, etc. This just counts the structure and not the number of individuals that may reside in there. We had approximately 400 total interviews or observations for the city. All of that goes into a statistical analysis with the high probability areas, and then gets factored into the low probability areas to get our number. So 400 is not our number, that's just how many submissions were put into the system during this count. Right now, that is all going back to SimTech, which is the organization that the COC and JPA contract with to help put on the count and create our report that gets submitted to HUD. Our preliminary data is that it's about a 33% decrease in total submissions from last year, and a decrease again against all of the interviews, observations, and structures. One thing that we noticed and did get reported back were in past point in time counts, there were larger congregations of RVs or vehicles together, where now they may be a little bit more spread out. So you may be finding 1, 2, or 3 at a time versus sometimes 10 to 15 in a general populace. The overall number for the county did decrease, but as noted in several planning meetings, additional housing or shelter options have opened, including the Navigation Center, Blue Oak Landing, and Broadway Village here in Vallejo, so that will likely decrease our numbers as we get our official information back. It does take a couple of months to get that information back from SimTech and get ready to be reported back to HUD, but as soon as we get that information, we will share it with council and the community. Next slide. So the encampment removals were paused through February 15th at the request of the COC in order to support the accuracy of the pit count and also to do outreach pre and post count. Council had requested during this time that staff conduct trash removals at the encampments, as well as help to coordinate outreach during the pause with COC organizations and SIOT, which is the Solano Integrated Outreach Team. Next slide. So staff conducted removals of encampments at approximately 30 locations as of last week. And as part of our conversation when we came before you on January 13th, there was a request to get the fiscal impact that the pauses or cleanups kind of in general cost the city. This is a breakdown predominantly of staff time, because that is what most of the funding that the city puts into encampment cleanups goes towards. So as you can see, the breakdown on a daily basis is approximately $2,000. This only includes staff time. It doesn't include, dump fees and things like that, which get kind of calculated into our larger dumpster fees that we as a city take on. The estimated amount for this is similar to our encampment cleanups or removals, and it does vary slightly depending on how many staff we need. Sometimes we need additional staff depending on the location that we are entering or the personnel that are being assigned to the cleanup each day. Next slide. So As part of the request, staff did coordinate outreach during the pause with the Continuum of Care and SIOT. On January 22nd, staff met with the SIOT team to discuss the coordinated outreach approach. We had requested weekly meetings, but due to some scheduling challenges and funding challenges, the SIOT team was not able to commit to those. So we did ask that they create a weekly tracker to share back and report back their outreach that was occurring. We did discuss coordinated outreach post-encampment removal pause. At this point in time, the SIOT team was not able to commit to a set strategy, but the city is still working with them on what that may look like and can continue to report that back to council as we get a more streamlined approach. And part of that is stated due to lack of housing and shelter availability, that getting people into housing at this point in time isn't necessarily a reality with the limited housing stock that they have access to. Next slide. So as part of that outreach tracker, we requested to get the location that's being served, the organization that is doing the outreach, the number of individuals contacted, the number of individuals at the location, or an estimated number that would reside there, the number of individuals who were entered into or updated in the Homeless Management Information System, HMIS, individuals contacted and the services that they were referred to, and the number of unhoused individuals who declined services or didn't want to connect with service providers while they were out there. Next slide. So this is a sample of the information that was received back from SIOT for the tracker. As you can see, it has 8 locations that received outreach for between January 26th and the 30th. 4 individuals received referrals to service agencies, the main agency being 4th Second. We did receive a tracker late this morning with additional information. So between February 2nd and February 6th, 7 locations were visited. 5 of those were visited during the prior week, with 2 new locations being added to the list. And at this point in time, there were no reported information on the referrals to service agencies as part of the most recent tracker update. Next slide. So warming centers, at that same meeting on January 13th, council approved to amend the operator agreement with 5 key schools and programs to include warming center services. They worked really quickly to open their doors and were ready by January 15th to start welcoming individuals in. It's set to operate for 75 consecutive days going through March of 2026. And right now they're averaging 3 to 4 individuals per evening utilizing the space. After the conclusion of this winter's program, staff will review the results and bring forward the possibility of options to council for regular services next winter if that's something that council is interested in pursuing. Next slide. Lived experience stipends. So we are requesting this evening to have a conversation with council to approve allocating up to $1,000 of funds that's already currently allocated into the homelessness line item in the budget for the purposes of providing stipends to individuals with lived experience. We think this is beneficial really to ensure that we're compensating individuals with lived experience for their input and expertise on potential future programs and policies. As we continue to gather data from the PIT count, we want to include the lived experience voice in what our programs kind of form shape as we move forward. The city manager's office and finance staff would work to establish a policy to utilize these funds with the current fiscal policies that we have in place to make sure that it doesn't conflict with anything. We are looking at utilizing Capilano JPA's policy with some potential edits. The feedback that we've received is that their process, individuals have to be mailed checks, and we know that that's not always easy for individuals experiencing homelessness. So looking at other opportunities to be able to more quickly and efficiently get them their stipends. Next slide. The homeless roundtable. So at a council meeting probably mid last year, council had asked the city to engage with Vallejo together in taking over the homelessness roundtable. We were able to do that and hosted our first one in December of 2025. Approximately 35 individuals attended that meeting where the city and the COC provided an update on the pit count, the navigation center, and at that point in time, our anticipated operations of a warming center. We did receive community feedback on the general state of homelessness in Vallejo, and encampment removals in particular was a large part of that conversation. We are currently working to schedule our next roundtable in March of 2026, and we will be releasing a date shortly. We're kind of firming things up with our potential speakers to make sure that the dates we're looking at work with their schedule and they can make themselves available to come and provide those presentations. Next slide. So again, mid to early last year, council did ask staff to work on a designated parking or camping program with religious organizations. So we wanted to provide an update on how those conversations have been going. Staff have continued to have conversations and discuss this with various religious organizations to find their willingness and ability to operate. There are some issues or areas of concern that various groups have shared with us, some of the main ones being potential approval of zoning or temporary use permits, which is definitely something that is within the city's realm to help address. The need for security, an increase to insurance is an issue that has been raised by multiple organizations. Restroom and trash services being on site if they don't have like a community space that they might be able to open to help with that. And support for closing the program each day if they chose to do something that was just like an overnight 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., making sure that somebody was there to ensure that individuals exit the next day. Staff is still willing to continue to meet with interested organizations and look at ways to help them overcome these obstacles. Next slide. So White Slough, which is the location, the wetlands that are between Redwood and Highway 37 and Sonoma and Sacramento Street up on the map, has been a growing area of interest for council and the community, so we wanted to bring an update and a high-level overview of the properties and kind of next steps that the city is working on taking at looking to address this. So the city does not own any of the parcels associated with the White Slough. There are two public entities that have properties out there. One is Vallejo Flood and Wastewater District. It's labeled VFWD on the map, and it's the strip on the lower left-hand side of the map that runs parallel to Sacramento Street. The state of California, or Caltrans, owns the area along the bike path, which is the Bay Trail Vine Trail that runs parallel to Sacramento Street and parallel to Highway 37. The city does have a contract with Caltrans to help maintain parts of the walking path that is out there. The other areas are privately owned. The three main areas of concern or that we receive a lot of questions and calls about in our office are privately owned. So there's private property number 1, which is in the lower left of the screen. Private property number 2, which is the middle of the screen, and private properties 3, which is 2 parcels, but it is under one owner. It just has a small kind of sliver of water that runs through it at different times of the year, so it's broken into 2 parcels on the map, but it is one owner. Next slide, please. In November of 24, there was a joint cleanup on the public properties between the state of California, Vallejo Flood and Wastewater District, and the city of Vallejo provided support on addressing this area. The next steps is the city's neighborhood law program is looking at 2 avenues for assessing the properties. Next slide for me, Manny. So that includes with the 2 avenues for assessing the properties, looking at either getting a court ruling to have process to get on there or working with the property owners to willingly get access to the property to be able to better assess it. Our public works teams is assessing the scope of work to clean and secure the location. Planning for abatement, including an order or approval to abate, noticing of the individuals on the location, lining up towing capacity to get any of the abandoned vehicles off of the site, planning for personal property storage, and coordinating outreach for the individuals who are residing out there. The city is also working on a long-term strategy for the properties and has requested assistance from local, state, and federal partners to work in collaboration towards a long-term solution for the location. With that, that is the end of our update and overview for you, and staff are happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much. Before we take council questions and comments, why don't we take public comment on the items, starting with the in-person folks?
We do have 3 listed speakers. Not sure about the first 2. They may be duplicates from the previous sessions. Eli Smith and Gilda Ledesma were our first list, and I don't see either one of them here. Oh, Eli's in. Oh, there you go. I'm sorry, Eli.
While she's coming up, I think Hilda signed up for 9A by mistake.
Yeah, that's what I believe. And
Thank
then
you.
after Gilda, or after Eli would be Layla W.
So generally speaking, I find myself continually extremely concerned about the quality integrity about the updates that the city provides on homelessness in these PowerPoint presentations. There's a pattern of omission of essential facts, lack of context, an absence of statistical integrity, and a gross misrepresentation of the city's role as a collaborator, as well as the general tone, which in tonight's agenda is more blame than solution focused. I've spent a lot of time in data analysis, and I'm very familiar how omission of facts and context can distort the bigger picture completely. And so whenever these presentations come up, I'm bowled over by the data analysis that are presented by the city. The use of the term unhoused as a noun rather than unhoused people is deeply offensive, and staff members should know better. Centralized coordination of services and an objective measure of success is essential and has been sorely lacking. There's a great need for accountability across the board, and it makes sense for the city to take that role. However, from my perspective, the city has been the most negligent, uncooperative, uninvested participant in collaborative efforts to end homelessness on both the county level and the municipal level. There are too many examples to mention in public comment, but some notable points. In terms of garbage pickup, the city never responded to offers by the community to assist with coordinating or facilitating encampment cleanup during the pause. The city never responded to a detailed proposal submitted by members of SIA, including the Vallejo Homeless Union, that would enable them to use Recology's existing contract to pick up trash, choosing to spend its own labor hours instead. On March 18th, during the special meeting on homelessness, the city stated it expected to spend $360,000 for the financial year of 24-25 on its SWEEP program, which covers the post-grants pass time period. That's sweeps, not cleanups. That breaks down to $30K per month, which is $45K per 6 weeks, for a total of 6 camp sweeps. The supplementary packet for today's agenda explains that the current garbage pickup program, whatever its flaws, still only costs $17,377, which is less than half of its sweep program. And the city claims that they addressed 30 locations. In terms of reducing homelessness, the Navigation Center serves 125 people and is full with a waiting list. The Broadway project serves 48 people and is full with a waiting list. It's approximately 175 people compared to the number of people counted last year, which is 682. Homelessness is reduced by 26% entirely due to shelter options. So there's only been a 7% decrease in homelessness outside the city's newly open housing projects, which is not only a low number, it's most likely a statistical variation. Unless the city's planning on opening new housing projects, the numbers absolutely do not support that we can expect any continuing drop in homelessness. There's too much to respond to, so I'm going to end there, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Layla W.
And as she's approaching the podium, I just wanted to give you a heads up. We have about 5 speakers online.
Hey y'all, good evening. It's good to be with y'all today. Just to double down on what Eli already spoke on, you guys need to have a succession plan. I hear a general plan and a maybe plan and a kinda plan when it comes to our underserved community. I take issue with that. You need to have a succession plan and a long-term one. We keep bringing up the navigation center. Eli has already briefly addressed that. That's not enough. I'm not saying you're not doing the work, but that's not enough, okay? And you guys can provide more public information in regards to your efforts towards a succession plan. And I'm talking to the city manager especially, because your office is really hard to get in touch with. It's ridiculous. With that being said, when you guys provide a succession plan, please make sure that you actually have your feet on the ground and you're asking the right questions. It does take time and it takes patience to get effective things going, effective programs, effective processes. So take the time out because it is worth it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no more in-person speakers listed.
Let's call the folks
First
online.
online speaker, Barbara Simpson. Please unmute yourself. You have the floor. Barbara Simpson, your turn to speak. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Vice Mayor and esteemed City Council members. My name is Barbara Simpson, and I am one of the founding members of the SIOT team based in Vallejo. I would like to take a moment to address and clarify some misinformation concerning the SIOT team and its interactions with city staff that was made available in public folder prior to tonight's meeting. So I appreciate the opportunity to clarify this matter and ensure that the record accurately reflects the work and position of the SIOT team. During our initial meeting held with Ms. Peterson on January 22nd, the SIOT team stated that we would conduct weekly outreach Monday through Saturday throughout the encampment pause period, which is scheduled to end on February the 15th. Once the pause concluded, we would resume our regular outreach activities in the city of Vallejo, consistent with the outreach we have been providing prior to the pause since March of 2025. Concerning the declination of weekly coordination meetings due to scheduling or funding challenges, please know that SIOT meets weekly as a part of its established operational structure and ongoing coordination efforts, including regular internal coordination among SIOT partner agencies and standing outreach and case coordination and conferencing activities. SIOT does not meet separately on a weekly basis with each jurisdiction and therefore did not propose a jurisdiction-specific meeting structure for the city of Vallejo. However, in lieu of the meetings, SIOT did agree to complete a tracker provided by city staff during the encampment pause to support staff's updates to council as requested. The only portion of the tracker that would not be completed involved providing the city staff with personal identifying information that is tracked within HMIS. This was addressed in an email to Ms. Peterson on Thursday, February the 5th, as it did not align with HIPAA and the code of ethics that I vowed to uphold as a social worker. During the initial meeting held on January 22nd with Ms. Peterson, the outreach numbers and information from the period of January 12th to January 21st were provided. After receiving the tracker sent by Ms. Peterson on Monday, the 26th, I personally completed the tracker and sent it attached in an email on February 3rd, showing outreach provided January 26th through the 30th, and then again sent it on February 10th, reporting outreach provided February 2nd through the 6th. The emails containing the trackers were sent to Ms. Peterson and included DeAndre Richards and Kari Rader. The characterization of the SIOT that it declined to coordinate or report is an inaccurate statement and does not reflect the SIOT's established practices, commitments, or the agreements made during the encampment pause. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Ann C. Please unmute yourself. You have the floor. Go ahead. And I'm going to move on to the next speaker. In the meantime, if you can figure out your microphone situation. Next speaker, Melvin Cohen. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Community. Melvin Cowan, Vallejo resident. When we discuss homelessness in Vallejo, we share a basic assumption that people want stability and our systems exist to help them reach it. We can also agree that lived experience should inform policy, and that is why appropriately compensating lived experience is appropriate and necessary. The concern also arises with structure. Recent community findings include Pathfinder survey of 228 unsheltered men show that 72% want help, 72% sought help and did not receive it, and 76% reported negative interactions with agencies. That indicates willingness is present. However, there's an issue with trust. It's fragile. When similar patterns appear in multiple places, we should pause. And so the Little Hoover Commission had documented fragmentation and inconsistent intake across California's homelessness response. The Kaiser Permanente Vallejo Community Health Needs Assessment identifies housing, income stability, access to care, and mental health as top priorities in this service area. One third of households are housing cost burden, and these findings align. The issue isn't whether lived experience should be compensated. The issue is whether it will be structurally integrated into decision making. And so designing people with people requires aligning governance, workflow, and accountability, not simply adding participation. So if the city proceeds, clarity will matter. And what is the selection framework? Who defines lived experience versus expertise? Who makes final determinations? Will there be a charter? Will recommendations formally come before council? And how will outcomes be tracked? Without defined structure, can become symbolic rather than institutional. And if participation involves sustained engagement, preparation, and public accountability, compensation should reasonably reflect the scope of responsibility being requested. And so this is a choice point here. The city can design a process that strengthens trust by establishing clear criteria, defined authority, staggered terms that preserve institutional memory while allowing new voices to participate, and a reporting structure tied to measurable outcomes. And so if this is done well, this will not just compensate participation, it will improve policy. And so Vallejo residents expect compassion and competence. The record we create tonight should reflect both. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
All right, Ann Carr, you want to try again? Does your microphone? There we go. Perfect.
Yes, so you can hear me great. Thank you so much for circling back. So this is a big topic and I have many comments. The first of which is it's a bigger topic than we can cover in this meeting. I'd like to know how to get invited to the roundtable. I was not notified when it happened last time, and I think that the information about that needs to be more broadly distributed. One comment I have and question and concern is about the breadth of voices that are invited to participate in discussions about our policies on that unhoused. I understand, quote, getting the lived experience of people who've been unhoused, but I think it's also important to get the experience of people who have jobs and homes and businesses near these encampments. And those voices seem to be overlooked. The direct proactive outreach to the encampments is absolutely essential, and I think the county has really been has underserved Vallejo in that area and underserved the unhoused population. There seems to be an approach more of expecting the unhoused to connect with Resource Connect in very limited office hours by going to them in person or calling and making an appointment, which I think is unrealistic. Further, another big gap in what we're trying to do with the unhoused is really a gap in terms of transition housing. A lot of people in the unhoused community do not want to go into congregate shelters, and they need some form of something that has a door and some privacy. Really, I would like to see the city and council and county work together to have either safe camping and or tiny sheds or something that addresses that next step in the whole housing continuum. And by the way, the notion that the council had approved of looking into parking at religious institutions, that obviously is going nowhere. And even if we got a lot of buy-in, it would not cover many people. So I don't see that as a realistic situation. And finally, the whole white slough mess has been waiting far too long for activity. I'm glad to hear that the city is finally looking at using the neighborhood law program on it, that it's long overdue and that mess needs to be cleaned up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have two more online speakers. Next speaker, Crystal Gallegos. Please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Thank you. So I want to respond directly to what we've heard here tonight because it reflects yet another pattern that's deeply troubling. So staff tonight has listed zoning, insurance, security, restrooms, and daily operations as so-called barriers, but every single one of those things is something the city has authority to solve and ability. Other cities with far fewer resources have found humane and immediate solutions because they choose to, and Vallejo can too. Instead, we're hearing a list of reasons why nothing can happen. We're hearing outreach can't coordinate, that housing isn't a reality, that shelter isn't available, and the city will so-called continue to meet with organizations. Meanwhile, folks are still living outside in dangerous conditions with no pathway indoors. So it's not a capacity issue, let's be really clear. And now we're hearing tonight about so-called plans for abatement, including on parcels the city doesn't even own, without any real corresponding plan to where people are supposed to go. And I noticed, because I pay attention, the slide clearly used the word access the properties, but staff continue to verbally say assess. Those are not the same things. Assess is observational. Access is entering property, removing people, towing vehicles, and displacing residents. So let's make sure we're clear there. Maybe it was just a slip, but either way, it's important. This shift in language actually really matters because it's clouding up, obscuring the real impact of what's being planned, and people need to know. Tonight, we also heard staff say that CIOT declined to support, but CIOT spoke tonight, and their statement tells a very different story. So, it sounds like they agreed to complete the city tracker, and, we're not communicated back to in time. And so it feels like there's a misrepresentation that compliance as refusal undermines trust. And that shifts blames onto the folks who are doing that work. And the city's still not worked with the Vallejo Homeless Union, the organization that showed up consistently, offered solutions, and really tried at every step of the way. The folks closest to the crisis and the people doing the most direct work were not meaningfully engaged at all in shaping this plan. It's a failure and a missed opportunity. And if the city's preparing to access this private property for abatement, then the city has to be prepared to offer real alternatives, not just announcements or theoretical conversations or strategies that may or may not exist in the future. We need actual low barrier, no barrier, humane options that exist today. Because you can't acknowledge that getting people into housing isn't a reality and then proceed with enforcement actions that leave folks with fewer options. So I just want to ask a few direct questions before I go. Every barrier you listed is something the city has the authority to resolve. What's preventing the city from moving? Lastly, what protections are in place to ensure that accessing private property for abatement doesn't result in the unlawful removal of people's belongings or the very displacement of these people? Thank you.
Thank you.
Final online speaker, Sally Griffith. Please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Sally Griffith. I am here as a person with lived experience of being housed in multiple cities here in Solano County. And I'm also co-chair.
Ms. Griffith, we lost you briefly. Are you still there?
She's still unmuted, and she's still there.
Yeah. Let's give her a few more seconds just to see if.
Yeah. Let me take.
Oh, here she is. Miss Griffith, we lost you for a second. Would
Okay.
you back up? We can restart your time, but if you could back up, if you were talking, we didn't hear
Okay.
what you just said.
Okay, thank you. My name is Sally Griffith, and I am a person with lived experience of being unhoused in multiple cities here in Solano County. And I am right now a co-chair of the Lived Experience Committee here in Solano County. One of my issues or one of my concerns is that the JPA has set up this a great plan for the issuing of stipends for the inclusion of voices of community members that to be part of the conversations, the building of programs and policies, the continued re-evaluation of these, and that has been broken down a bit more recently. And it seems that even from Vallejo, people tend to pick and choose the voices that they want to hear to suit their best needs. And so that policy to help include and protect has been broken down. There is no real need to put together a whole new committee when there are two that we've heard from this evening now that are already here waiting and willing and trying to be part of the solution. With all these things that are going on, there's any reasonable individual would likely decline to provide information and as some people put it, refuse to enter into services that just aren't out there. And giving information that is not necessary is it's a violation of privacy, it's a violation of trust, and it should not be expected. The narratives that the city puts out for our community members that are still struggling to find housing stability, our members in the community that are privileged enough to still have housing right now, that is seen and that is heard, and that affects the way that we're treated, that our other community members are treated. It affects our counts. It affects the funding that we're going to be able to get to find solutions. And this is not an unhoused situation. This is not a provider situation. This is a systemic situation. And the primary focus, if you want a sustainable change, needs to be with the system and the people running these systems. So our email for the Lived Experience Committee that's already here to serve Solano County, lec.solanoco@gmail.com. I know some of you are aware of it. Thank you. Hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you very much. All right, those are our commenters on the issue. Thank you to everyone that spoke. I'm going to open it up to council questions and comments, and in the interest of time, I'm going to have us do one round, and then we'll give some direction. So I'll ask council members to do your best to get everything in, because we'll go one round of speakers, and we'll start with Councilmember Bergenser.
I guess I'm first. First, I want to thank Natalie, your team. I know that it was a difficult and heavy lift to do the pit count. I do also think it's a very good sign that our numbers are declining, because I think that the progress that we've made is making a difference in our unhoused community. I think I don't want to perpetuate the blame or that situation, but I feel that I think City Council is the one who requested that you meet weekly with the CIOT team. So whether they couldn't meet with you or not, that was a demand that we had made. It was not something that the city wanted. And so you're just stating the facts. I like the progress that you're making. I don't see the need to have the lived experience stipends. I think we already have enough budgetary issues. We already provide enough money of our percentage of our budget towards homeless programs. And so I think, especially since there's no parameters preset, there's no determination of who is eligible to serve on it, how long they serve on it, all those types of things. I just think it's too wishy-washy, and I think it can become very controversial. So I'm not in favor of approving. I will approve the rest of it, but I'm not in favor of approving the $1,000 lived experience stipend. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Palmares.
Thank you for the presentation. So I want to go back to Mr. Callan's comment, and I absolutely agree with what he said. I think the lived experience wisdom is important, but if it's not joined in conjunction with some structure, strategy that lead to outcomes, it just feels like we're just doing it for the sake of doing it, I guess. So I guess my first question is, I believe we requested a homelessness strategy, and my understanding is that there was an RFP that was put out. So City Manager Murray, do you have, am I correct in that assumption or understanding?
You are correct in that the city staff brought forward the funding request and the contract for city council's approval. That was not approved by the city council. So city staff will be working on developing our own strategy using in-house resources.
I see. Okay. And is that forthcoming right now? Has that even been started? I know there was a suite of options that came back before us in our last cohort of city council, but I mean, has that been refined since then?
So there is a draft that staff had began working on. We paused those efforts when we went out for an RFP, so we would need to bring that draft out and resume those works. Part of the reasoning behind looking at doing the stipends was so as we continue to grow that strategy and potential future policies or programs would be to allow for the lived experience voice to be part of that and to be compensated for their time with helping assist with providing feedback on that.
I understand. Going forward, I hope we could aggressively pursue that strategy, and if we want to have offline conversation on maybe some folks we could talk to, I'd love to give some recommendations, and if there's any kind of internal working group on that, please feel free to invite me. I'd like to provide my feedback on that as well. I just don't want that to go on perpetually, and then we're just doing things, but we're not hanging it on a real strategy. That's not a good way forward. With regard to White Slough, I know we've had several internal conversations about going forward, and I know you mentioned some of the things that we're doing right now, but my recommendation would be, and this is, if the rest of council wants to approve as well, but reach out to our county and state leaders to see how they would like to invite them to participate in this discussion as well. It's a big problem, and even before going into cost estimates, it'll be huge, and I think it's worthwhile to just engage other leaders to see, what's their take on it, and if they could help out in any kind of regard. Actually, that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you so much for all the work that you all been doing. In particular, my district, which I go visit sites all the time. I get, not only that, I get calls from residents. I just got a call yesterday, and I went to that site, and I actually know people by their names. I want to just tell you transparently that they know you as well, Natalie. And they said that you have been compassionate, you have offered services, you as well. Flora, likewise the same. And we want to say thank you to you. They appreciate you picking up all the trash. I do see a lot of the unhoused trying to clean up as well, because they appreciate you helping them and giving them more time and letting them know that the reasons why they're still there is because of the pit count. And I don't know about any other service myself personally, but I want to say that almost everyone that I've encountered said nothing but great things about you all and all the work that you've done. And they want to continue that. They don't want a lot of trash and around them. They don't want that themselves. And so they appreciate it. So I want to thank the city and any other service that has been helping with that. There is a concern because right now on Sonoma Boulevard, it is becoming, is where people are locating. And I did see Caltrans over there this morning, speaking to individuals, so I don't know what's about to happen, but they're all along Norman Keene Center, down on Sonoma Boulevard, and also within District 6, Fifth Avenue. So, but I just want to say thank you to you all for that. Picking up the trash is important. I did see that they left some trash barrels there, but unfortunately that gets knocked over and the trash is there. I did get a call from Seabreeze. They want to tell you all thank you for that because it was getting bad over there. So I just want to tell you what I'm hearing. And so, and I want to ask you on the questions, if you don't mind. I want to ask about the warming center. The warming center, how is that working? And do we have any success stories where they're able to get more, with the PSYOP and anyone else involved? Are they able to get some long-term services?
So for individuals who are accessing the Navigation Center to use the Warming Center services, they do have access to the 5 Keys staff that are on site to help give them access to resources or share available resources with them, making sure that they're entered into HMIS if they haven't previously been. Right now, we're getting 3 to 4 individuals, or we're averaging about 3 to 4 individuals per night, some more, some less, but that's kind of the going number right now. We are working and are just about finalized with an agreement with Soul Trans to provide free rides to and from the Navigation Center. They just have to get on the bus and let them know that that's where they're going to utilize the warming center, so that way to help, reduce barriers. I know logistically they're still getting your belongings there, animals and things of that nature, but it was a step we were able to utilize to help with that. So as soon as that information, as soon as that agreement is finalized, we just finished our insurance requirements with that. As soon as that's finalized, we will share that with the community and the different resource providers to make sure that it disseminates down to individuals utilizing the service. Thank you.
And my next question to you is for the Live Experience stipend. Would you, if this board agrees to that, do they get like a gift card immediately after they speak? Because I know that was a challenge before.
So that's one of the things that we would work with our finance team to make sure that we're not standing in front of our own fiscal policies, but that is one of the biggest hurdle that we're working to overcome with the individuals who previously had to be mailed checks and not necessarily having a mailing location to do that to, is either being able to live with a gift card or something to that effect immediately that day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I myself personally understand the importance of that. I know that we're in a financial challenge, but I think it's important that they do come and share and then walk away with something that may be beneficial for them, whether it be something to eat or whatever the case may be, because their voice is important. I do want to also make sure that we're hearing from the youth, if that's possible. I don't know how we can really go about that, but unfortunately that is a climbing number, but it's unfortunately silent because they don't want people to know, like our 18-year-olds who are still in high school. which I do know of two in my particular district, meeting one of them on Friday and meeting one yesterday on Monday. So I hope that they said they would not come to this, but they would not mind you coming to them. So just keep that in mind. And my next page will be the design parking camping, and so I just got this little. Are they wanting to make sure that, first of all, I want to thank them, whoever is wanting to do this, I appreciate it. Because I can't see us saying, first we didn't have the navigation center, first we didn't have the Broadway. Now we have that, and I'm grateful for that, but we also need other places that are willing to help, and which I appreciate that. How is that going to work with cleaning and, providing where people can, go to the restroom, take showers? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but can you refresh my memory what that goal was going to look like more clearer?
Yeah, so it'd be specific to each church and kind of what they're looking to offer. So at a previous council meeting, we had brought forward different different things that other cities are doing as in terms of designated locations. Some of them were at churches, some of them were city or county ran. Ideally, what most of the churches have spoken about is some sort of an over evening safe parking or a designated parking location, so you could come in, park, be there from, for example, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and then you would leave the premises. So with that, they're looking to bring in portable showers, access for resource providers if they're able to come and connect with individuals. A lot of the churches that we've spoken with currently provide some sort of food or meal distribution, so they would look at utilizing their internal resources to provide meals to the individuals that are there, maybe a dinner when they come in and something to leave with in the morning. As the previous speakers had mentioned, these are things that are, somewhat within the city's control to address if that's something that council wants staff to look at doing. I think conversations at previous council meetings were similar to the business hardening grants that we could put out, choose X amount of dollars and we could put potentially grants out there for churches who are interested in doing this and have some of these obstacles to potentially apply for them. But that would obviously be a fiscal decision that would need to come before council.
Yeah, thank you. Nilgo Conley, Assistant City Manager. Just to jump in there, just to give you a sense of maybe scale, we were in talks with some faith-based organizations, and it, approximately providing safe parking for about 20 to 25 cars overnight for that sort of 12-hour time frame runs anywhere between about $50,000 to $65,000 a month. So it includes, security for that time, showers, some other services, and that's with them sort of clearing out, at a 8 a.m., 7 a.m. time frame.
Real quick, so Recology, everybody know that the city doesn't. That's a separate special district, right? That's when we don't own Recology, right? That's separate.
Right. We do get some sort of in-kind donated dumpsters so that, we might be able to provide some relief, some services, city-provided services there. But, that's having someone to kind of manage the program, like I said, inclusive of security, helping them with insurance costs, access to restrooms, whether that's on site or if it's porta potties, and then, some snacks and some food and some other services.
May I ask you a question? Could you please provide us a list of what that will look like for the city's financial point of view? Or let's just say if the church say, yeah, we'll come up with $25,000, or we got a grant, or the city provided a grant, but just something so that our communities see that we are financially supporting one way or another, and that we are definitely a partner in making sure that we're not just abandoning our unhoused individuals. Thank you for that.
Yes.
And I'm done.
Councilmember Lettish.
Thank you all for your work. So really quickly, we've been talking about this for a long time, and what I would like to see brought to this council is a housing strategy plan. How long would that take us to get done? It's not something that we have to start from scratch, and this is to our city manager so that we can do more comprehensive work with a plan and actions and how we're going to coordinate clearly with the county services and roundtable, all of those things in this strategy plan. How long will it take us to do that?
I don't know that we can provide you with an answer right now. That's not something we had prepared. I don't know, Assistant City Manager Conley, if you want to provide a rough time frame for that. You've got lots of other things on your plate right now, but.
So is this related to what Director Jones was going to bring back in terms of the strategy around the impacts for the housing choice vouchers, or what, what housing strategy plan are you talking about?
An unhoused strategic plan like the one we were going to contract for. If we were to do it in-house, how long would it take to develop that?
So we have a city drafted version.
Okay.
And so we have that now, so we can bring that back as soon as we can agendize
I appreciate that. And I think it should have some numbers, some metrics, you know, the various things that have been talked about by the council members tonight. Then I'd like to quickly ask, as it relates to the neighborhood law program, and my understanding is, and this is to our CAO, our neighborhood law program sits within her office, and so what I'd like to understand is how does it differ from code enforcement, building, and police, and what's the workflow as it relates to a resident's complaint, investigation, compliance, and legal action? Because we have been talking about White Slough for almost a full year, and yes, I realize that there are many aspects to that process, and in 2024, there was a cleanup, but we really need to have a real dialogue and a plan of action and really show that we're moving forward. It's been too long, and it is a health, it becomes a public health issue for the unhoused as well as the housed, and we need a plan of action. We can't continue on another year in this process.
So I'll answer that by the fact that we have executed on that plan of action. So the private property owners on White Slough that have nuisance conditions, homeless, trash, vehicles, on their properties, the Neighborhood Law Program has filed suit against those individuals. That suit is in the courts. There are 3 of them. Those are listed on the NLP's website if anybody wants to go look at where those cases are. The challenge, there has been challenges with the financial wherewithal of those who own those properties to effectuate a cleanup. There are some strategies that we can use within the courts to receive orders for that cleanup, but without the financial ability to do so, we have been somewhat stymied. If the council were to, I hate to use the word budget, but direct city monies to be directed at a court order to allow us to go onto the property to clean it up, that is an option that we can pursue and pursue it relatively quickly.
So I want to interject right there.
Yes, ma'am.
So first of all, this is not just a city of Vallejo issue. So where are our partners in that when we talk about court, having an injunction, if you will, and us budgeting dollars? There is Vallejo wastewater and flood. There is the state of California. This is not just the sole responsibility of the city of Vallejo. So how do we bring our partners to the table so that we are not bearing the brunt of this cost and dealing with the issue? That's really important.
So going further with that, we have reached out to Garamendi's office, had an initial meeting about that very subject, including the next step, which is sort of long-term, what can we do to prevent the condition from continuing?
We had an initial discussion about that. They are reaching back out to us to initiate the follow-up discussion after doing some additional checking on their end.
So when
and
do we
will let the
expect them
council-
to reach back out to us?
Well, we got the information. I can look on my as to the last time, but any day, it was my answer to that question. And I can reach back out tomorrow for a follow-up and say, do we have that information on next step and next meetings, and then give the council an update.
And what about the state of California? They're a participant in this process, right?
I spoke with a representative of Senator Cabalden's office today about this. One of the next steps that I think Ms. Peterson mentioned in her presentation is developing a cost estimate for the remediation and preventative measures to keep the slough, the spit, from being reoccupied, and Public Works is working on developing that right now. So I think that's something that the city's generating, even if the city's not going to bear the full cost, which hopefully we wouldn't, of doing remediation. We need to have a sense of that cost to discuss it with the partners. And I know that our county supervisor has expressed interest in being a partner, so we're happy to reach out to the county and continue to involve them in the dialogue.
So when do we expect to be done with the financial cost estimates?
Through the mayor, we are scheduling a site visit, whether that's being able to access the site if we get willing participation, or getting potentially drones up in the air to get better imaging of what's actually on the site early next week. So hopefully by the end of next week or early the following week, we will have estimates for that cost.
So within 2 weeks, by the time we meet again, the expectation is that the city manager will bring back those cost estimates, bring back next steps to this council, as well as be able to tell our community what we are doing continuously, because we need to do a better job also in sharing out with the community on these hot topics, what we're doing, what our barriers are, and how we are consistently knocking on the doors to solve problems.
Yeah, sorry. No, we won't have that in 2 weeks. So we'll have an internal tentative estimate of certain costs, but there might be other costs like permitting costs if we're going to dig a trench. So I would say 4 weeks for a cost estimate.
Okay.
And if I may, in further to your, I was going to save this for the city attorney's report, but at this point I think it's more timely. We have stacked up a new sub-page on the city attorney's page on our website for the neighborhood law program that includes information for the public on many things, including it is a landing page to jump to how to report to code and how to report to all the other departments so that people can go to one place. It also includes a list of all of our ongoing, at least litigation cases, to the extent that they have been served. And it also includes a list of the properties that have, through the neighborhood law program, recently been abated, and what those outcomes are.
Thank you for that. And so what I would really hope with that information is, how do we get that out? How do we set out from your office a press conference and really putting this in simple terms and helping our community understand, here's this information, you can go here, you can make your complaints, this is how we're going to respond. Because it's extremely important to the community. And when we don't communicate, it appears to our community that we have deaf ears and we don't care.
Happy to issue a press release on the website update and the information that's available there, including all of the links to how to report. And also happy to have NLP put out some additional information on sort of flows and options, because I don't think we had a neighborhood meeting on a, we'll call it problem property, a week and a half ago, I guess, maybe a little longer ago than that, and there was a lot of information given, but it was all given verbally to how those flows happen and what our options are when we have a problem property, regardless of what that property is. And that's information that I think the general public would be interested in, applicable to all properties. So happy to kind of get some of that information put up there as well, and then put out a press release so that the public has a spot to go to ask those kinds of questions and check on status of things.
And I'd like to know, I would like for you to consider, since you have this page up and so forth and on, but in parts of our community where we really have lots of challenges around abatements and so forth and on, how can you hold more informational meetings with the community that would be helpful and be responsive as you continue to work through these processes?
Sure, happy to do that. I think we had for a while what I would call neighborhood meetings in sort of the different districts that we went to and did sort of a property abatement and those types of discussions, and gave an opportunity for people to tell us about properties that maybe we didn't know existed but just hadn't risen to that level yet, or that they didn't really know how to support and report. Happy to do that again, whether that's, you know, in conjunction with council members trying to set those up to identify where those are, or any other way. We are more than happy to do that and begin that work again in this year.
And I think as we move closer to summer and student internships, we really need to think about how we can have individuals come through our community and really help us identify all the hotspots in our community. It's really important because we have a lot of different challenges with abandoned property or property in abatement, all of these different things, and it really is causing a lot of heartache within our community, and we have to find a way, and you and I have talked about this, a better way of really connecting and a better way of addressing these in a much more quicker way, even though I know we have to do the court processes and it takes time. But how do we help the community understand, we know this is happening, these are the things we're doing, and how do we perimeter off property and all of these different things that really keep our neighborhoods safe. So, you know, I'd like to have further dialogue about that, and we can schedule it so that we really can have a program that's robust.
Happy to take those suggestions and make them reality.
So thank you very
Happy
much.
to meet with you.
And I'm done, thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor Matulik.
Thank you, Mayor. And I concur with much of what's been discussed at this point. And going to the point of, on this action item number 2, of provide direction to staff on city programs, I think there's still quite a few more questions that need to be answered, to the point of, I haven't heard anything about Cap Solano JPA, of things of help, of ways or other programs or other resources, anything from the county that can help support of our direction, how we determine some of these programs, and the fact that of metrics of what programs, successful programs, of what are those metrics, and how can we make these or give staff direction of these programs without any data to identify what is efficient and effective for our specific situation here in Vallejo. So with that being said, I think, once again, if we're looking to come back in 2 weeks or whatever it is with more data, it's that type of data, I think, that would give us better direction, understanding of how we determine and give staff direction for programs in general. And to Councilmember Bregenzer's point of, I am in full support of supporting and financially supporting those with lived experience to help us move a lot of our issues forward. But what that structure looks like, I am concerned that we're putting a dollar amount there without any checks and balances of how do we get that equitably. I mean, it's $1,000. Is it much at all? But then where does that? Because I think we have quite a few individuals with the lived experience that can significantly guide us with some of our issues here. So how do we get that equitably out there with the correct? Is it just attending meetings? Is it actually actionable items of what we do here? So once again, I'd like to see structure behind this. But once again, I want to see data metrics to help us identify if we need to give staff direction of what programs. I think that's a broader conversation we need to have with missing information we don't have in front of us yet. So.
Yeah, so I'll be very brief. I think the only things that I want to add, I do support compensating people for the folks with lived experience for contributing to our efforts. And I know the staff report said that we need to put parameters on it, so we'll put parameters on it. And I think that's needed and should be valued. And on that note, I do feel like we've made some progress, but we're still underutilizing our stakeholders, particularly our community members, the homeless union folks that have offered to help. And with respect to White Slough, I know the situation is complicated, but we've had a couple of offers from groups to do cleanups on that site. First, the homeless union offered to do a cleanup, and now we have Urban Compassion Project that wants to do cleanup on that site, and has asked just for city support with dumpsters. And my understanding is that those organizations know the property owners, or at least a portion of the property owners, to be able to get authorization to go on that site. And so I would like for the city to engage with them thoughtfully in terms of what our ability is to potentially provide dumpsters, and at least have an honest conversation about what the liability concerns and opportunities are there. Because while the long-term solution is going to be had through some type of enforcement, there is, as we saw with the Army Reserve site, there's an aesthetic and safety improvement when that debris is picked up. And obviously the Army Reserve site was incredibly complicated, and that was not our property, and we didn't have, there wasn't authorization from that property owner, and the city wasn't involved in that at all. But I do think if there's an opportunity to engage with our partners on White Slough, we should. And if we can't engage with them, we should be very clear about why not, and at least kind of have that ongoing conversation. Because we have a lot of people that in the community that have knowledge, have skills to contribute, want to help, want to contribute, and we don't have a lot of resources. So I think we need to be leveraging the folks that we do have on the ground and working more as a team instead of everybody kind of flying past each other. So that would be, my request on White Slough would be that we engage those two organizations with the idea of, can we collaborate on a shorter term solution? I think with our meeting tonight, looking at the time and kind of thinking about the stuff before us, I wonder if we should take some smaller votes, or actually I'm going to turn it back to our staff and see. I know you wanted clarity on the lived experience stipends. Is there any particular direction you're looking for this evening, in addition to some of the requests that have come in for additional information?
So the item before council that would need a vote this evening would be authorizing to allocate up to the $1,000 for the program for lived experience stipends. If you did want to approve that and say, not until the parameters are put in place or whatever additional guidance council may give on that. But that's the only item before you this evening that needs direction, an action item.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'll go ahead and move that, that we direct staff to move forward with that program. I mean, the allocation doesn't need council approval, and we would just have an understanding. I would move that we support the development of that program, and that staff work to put parameters in place and engage some of the stakeholders in making sure we do that thoughtfully. And I see Councilmember Regenzer, quick.
Yeah, I just want to comment that I think it's a very slippery slope to move forward with this, in the fact that we have several commission and board members that are volunteers through our community that provide guidance and support for ordinances and different things to the city, and we don't pay them stipends. So why is this board in particular different? Why is the expertise different than any of our other boards and commissions? So I am not in support of authorizing this program to move forward.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think I'm not seeing anyone else. I think we can go ahead and vote on it. The only thing I would add is I do believe this is different because we have folks that they're not formal city volunteers, and we're not hiring them because we're providing a service, but there's a bit of a we want to make sure that we compensate them because we really need their input. I see what you're saying. But I do support this, and I want to vote on it. I see the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Leteju, and then I want to vote.
And I just want to put a point of clarification when we're for this specific motion with putting the parameters in there, and this is just for lived experience for those in the lived experience portion of it and no one else. So once again, that's going to be tied to the parameters of what is that, how is that determined? So just want to make sure that we're under that understanding.
Councilmember Lejeune.
Sure, thanks. I'd like, our ACM said in 2 weeks, she can bring back her unhoused strategy plan. I'd like to have that unhoused strategy plan with this information and with the parameters in it. I'd like to see the plan. That is my friendly amendment to this.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and vote. I accept the friendly amendment and we will vote.
Motion carries with Councilmember Briganza opposed and Councilmember Matias absent.
All right, thank you. That's going to bring us to item 9B. And I believe we would benefit from a short break at this time, but let's keep it really tight because we only have 23 minutes until my self-imposed deadline, and I'd like to get through at least 2 more items. I don't think we're going to get through 2 items. So let's take just a very quick recess. All right, friends, let's go ahead, come back. And if we have 4 bodies at this dais, which we do, I will go ahead and ask our clerk to announce item 9B, please.
Direct city staff to select 3 firms as follows. A, Government Performance and Policy Analytics Incorporated. B, and I'm going to butcher that name, Soberg Evancheck Consulting. C, Macy's, Ginny, and O'Connell, LLP, to perform various audit and assessment services on an on-call basis and provide direction to staff on initial specific services.
All right, thank you. So we'll open up public comment on this item, and I have Councilmember Bergenzer has a proposal for us before we turn it over to staff.
Yeah, I would like to, after we hear the public comment, I think this has been in our packets for probably 9 meetings now, and I think we've read it forwards and backwards, so I propose that we just skip the presentation and just vote on the item.
Thank you. I support that, and I'm seeing nods. ACM Conley, do you have anything you do want to say that isn't in the packet?
No, so you were provided information, I think, about 4 weeks ago, and then this kind of briefly came before you 2 council meetings ago as information. You gave direction to have it be an action item. So I can probably do a quick summary in about 20 seconds, and then...
Let's do it.
Should we do that now? Okay.
20 seconds, I'm timing you. You
Now
have
the
40 seconds for the public comment, so.
Oh, okay. Do I need to wait or? No. Okay, perfect. So as you know, this item before you really is just about performance auditors. We completed an RFP. We have 3 competent and qualified firms. Oh, Lord, I can't remember them from Schoberg, Ovenschenk. Wait, what are they? Wait, I have to read them in here. Government Performance and Policy Analytics, Schoberg, Evanshank Consulting, and then Macy's, Genie, and O'Connell. We are recommending that the city manager, within his authority, can enter into contract with all 3 so that we have a variety of performance audit firms that we can engage. We plan on engaging 1 or more of these firms to do an audit and risk assessment, and then a org assessment, as well as benchmarking, and then a look at our internal controls. All of this in preparation for the fiscal year 26-27 budget. And then we're also prepared to take direction from council on any other performance audit services that you'd like for us to look into.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any public comment on the item?
None in person.
And how about online?
None online.
All right, with that in mind, I see Councilmember Ledeju very quickly, and then we've committed to a motion.
So really quickly, as you're scoping, one of the audits that I want,
Real quick, I'm just going to ask the folks in the back. The noise carries tremendously. If y'all could step outside or keep it down. It just carries real loud up here. All right, go ahead, Councilmember Ledeju.
Sorry. As it relates to the organizational consulting project, that needs to be brought back to the council for discussion. So that's my one request, because you've said these are the things you want to do, and anything else we can suggest, but that is one that needs to come back to the council.
The organizational assessment. So do you want to see how it's being designed before they do the work, or do you want to see, are you talking about bringing, obviously, the results back?
No, before it ever even happens. It needs to come back. Thank you.
All right, am I hearing a motion? Was that a motion to approve? That was a motion to approve with that request about the organizational assessment. And why don't we go ahead and vote on that?
Mayor.
All right.
Mayor, who was the maker of the motion?
Councilmember Ledeju.
Okay. Okay, now you can vote.
I had to close the voting, Dawn, because I had to see the screen. So that was why you had to restart it.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
Wonderful, thank you. That is going to bring us to item 9C, which I will ask our city clerk to announce.
Provide notice of intent to amend fiscal year 25-26 budget to appropriate $11,500,000 in Measure P funding for 1, the Bay Trail, Vine Trail maintenance, $50,000. Fiscal year 26-27 paving program, construction, $1,100,000, and 3 citywide pothole repair services, $500,000. This is step 1 of 2.
All right, thank you. I see Councilmember Bergenzer Why don't you go ahead before we turn it over to staff?
Again, this is something that has come before us. I feel that we could hear public comment, but the Measure P committee has already voted to approve this, so I don't know that we would have more expertise than they would on the governance of this funds. So I would move that we don't hear the presentation, just public comment, and then vote.
All right, thank you. We do have our Public Works Director, Alcantar, here. Is there anything you'd like to add that isn't already in the packet?
No, I think that's great news.
All right. Do we have any public comment on the item?
None signed up in person?
And how about online?
And through the chair, currently no members of the public signed up.
Okay, we do have 55 seconds technically on the timer. I'm going to give it a few more because we did move quickly. If anyone online would like to address the public on item 9C, which is the allocation of Measure P funding for trail maintenance and primarily for street repair, paving, and pothole, go ahead and raise your hand now. And if we don't have anyone at 30 seconds, I'll go ahead and close the public comment. Do we have anyone, Manny? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public comment. And do we have a motion?
Yes. I move that we provide notice of intent to amend the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget to appropriate $11,500,000 of Measure P funding for, 1, the Bay Trail, Vine Trail maintenance, $50,000, 2, fiscal year 2026 to 2027 paving program construction, $11 million, and 3, citywide pothole repair services of $500,000, step 1 of 2.
All right, and we can go ahead and vote.
I am missing a vote. There we go.
Has everybody voted?
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
Thank you very much. So that is going to bring us to our final action item, which is 9D, and I will ask our city clerk, just as soon as we're moving quick, I know you need to log the vote. I'll go ahead and ask you to announce this item.
Discussion and possible direction to staff on facilitating dialogue and progress regarding Mare Island infrastructure options.
All right. So I proposed this item as it mentions in the staff report, and we had some discussions here and there about this item, and Councilmember Palmares and I had begun a process of, as the representatives that represent Mare Island, to begin kind of work group type discussions on Mare Island infrastructure, and we encountered a couple of challenges, and we have there's a lot of discussion to be had on Mare Island infrastructure, but what we really want to do this evening is provide a couple of ideas that we hope the rest of the council will support, that we think will expedite the process, because it's been very difficult to even get everybody together to have the meetings. So I don't know, Councilmember Palmares, do you want to add anything, or you want me to just say what our recommendations are? We already talked about it. So our recommendation is there are kind of two separate issues with respect to infrastructure on Mare Island. There is the engineering issue with respect to how do we deal with I&I and the infrastructure and come together to deal with the infrastructure plan, kind of that operational side. And then there's the legal side of the infrastructure ownership. And what Councilmember Palmares and I are recommending in order to speed up and expedite the conversations is that we separate those two conversations and we proceed with a work group focused on sort of the operations, and that we explore or proceed with finding a mediator for the legal side particularly with respect to the infrastructure ownership, so that we can make progress on both fronts without having them delay each other. And that is what we hope to direct the staff to do tonight, and then we can continue to work informally as the reps for the island and then come back if we need to make progress. So if anyone has questions on that, Councilmember Palmares, go ahead and add what you need.
100% agree with everything you're saying, and I would also like to add on that, make sure that we're having a conversation about Channel 6A. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but just make sure that's part of the dialogue as well.
When we do the operational, would you say that would go on? Well, we'll figure that out. I think we can fold that in for sure. Yeah. It might be in, but that's why I stopped myself and I said, we'll figure it out. It's probably me both. All right, Vice Mayor Matulik.
Thank you, Mayor. And just, I think just as a general question, when you say work group, can you give us some boundaries and understanding of what you really mean by that?
Yeah, work group, the idea was to bring together representatives from the city, Mare Island Company, and VFWD to just sort of slog through the issues and provide space for the different agencies to give input, check on the status of the work, and then if there is either council direction needed, council resources needed, or flood and waste board needed, that would be where Councilmember Palmares and I could get that information and expedite it to come back. So the idea is representatives from the three agencies, we're recommending that we focus on the sort of, I'm calling it the operational side, but I'm speaking about kind of the policy side, the implementation side, and that we set, the boundaries of what we're doing with the infrastructure plan with Connolly and all that. So the work group will be representatives from the three agencies, basically.
And I completely agree with that, to the understanding that our infrastructure on Mare Island is 90 years old in a lot of cases, to where at some point these three agencies or organizations actually need to come together to actually engineer this. So I think that is what I think we as a council, wearing several hats, are asking the three agencies to actually do, is to come together. And once again, I think the idea of bifurcating these two issues of engineering versus the legal side is a great move moving forward, because once again, we can still move forward with the engineering, because that eventually has to get done no matter what, period. And then that way, that can be done and actually in place by the time, hopefully, that when the legal issues or the mediation actually occurs, that there is no delay, that we can move immediately forward, ideally move immediately forward. So I'm in full support of this conceptual plan moving forward.
All right, so you have you've perfectly stated exactly the goal that Councilmember Palmares and I were hoping to achieve. City Attorney, you had a clarifying question?
Yeah, actually a clarifying question. So I think as council is aware, and maybe not, part of a specific plan, which is currently pending, is the infrastructure plan, which the developer is obligated by law to accomplish. Is the vision of this bifurcated process to help just get some information that could help inform that infrastructure plan, or is it kind of trying to run a parallel track with whatever they're going to propose as their infrastructure plan? Because the developer actually gets to propose the infrastructure plan as part of their specific plan. So if they're participating in this group, I think that can help inform some of that and some of the options associated with it. But I was questioning 2 tracks, or you're trying to merge them into one?
No, the 2 tracks are because there are very specific concerns about the capacity on the island, and we're going to need the agencies to be part of the discussion as Mare Island Company develops the infrastructure plan. So that is.
So it's to inform the infrastructure plan.
It's to inform the infrastructure plan.
Thank you.
And make sure everybody's aware of the status and that there aren't any things that are dropped in the
Great.
process.
Helpful clarifying.
Between the 2 agencies. This is again where our dual role can help out.
Helpful to clarify that. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Bergenser.
I completely agree with the two-step process. I would really like to push the second portion, the ownership of the infrastructure, to the mediator as quickly as possible, because whoever owns this, it's a lot of money, and they need to start planning for it, whether it's us, whether it's Vallejo Fund Wastewater, or whether it's Mare Island, or whoever owns their certain portions. And in particular, if it's something that comes back to us, we need a lot of lead time in planning for that. So if we could have that decision as quickly as possible, that would be in everyone's best interest.
Yeah, and I would say it'll probably be, I don't know, it may be a combo, but yes, absolutely. And we do have to take public comment. We had another question from the city attorney.
We just concluded a mediation on another issue between us and another party that actually was quite well done by the mediator, who was relatively inexpensive and fairly close in terms of that may be an option to use that individual again. So just putting that information down.
So why don't we go ahead and take public comment on this item? And I believe we will have some.
Nothing showing up on the
through the mayor.
There we go. I've got 2 speakers signed up. First one is Daniel Boone, and the second will be Sherry Ann Grimm.
All right. Thank you both.
Good evening. I fully support the proposal that's just been put forward to separate these two issues, the engineering for the sewer infrastructure and the legal issues. I also fully support Councilmember Bergenzer's comment that the legal side regarding resolving ownership should be done as quickly as possible. All I want to add then as an idea is, and really this is kind of taking bits and pieces from everything that has come before you tonight, the other issues. The public, let me back up. One way to get things done quickly is to have regularly scheduled meetings. Press, Mare Island Company, and the district, the Vallejo Flood and Wastewater District, to work with you to set up a regular meeting. If it's weekly, bi-weekly, however often, you've got to get the same people in the room or talking to each other on Teams or Zoom on a regular basis. It's every third Tuesday or whatever it is. That will help you get things done. The other thing is, keep informing the public about these meetings. And obviously, you don't have to go into great detail about the engineers reported, blah, blah, blah. But if the scheduled meetings are known, okay, reporting back to the public, we now have a regularly scheduled meeting on the engineering issue this often. And that way the public can come back, you can come back to the public and say, we're having the meetings. We had a meeting last Thursday, or we had our monthly meeting or our bi-weekly meeting. It just really increases your credibility to the people that are, paying attention to these issues, that, hey, there is actually something going on. We're hearing back from the council that things are going on, instead of, up until now, there's been a lack of transparency. We've heard about, this is a problem and needs to get solved, but not really much follow on to, is anything really happening? So that will help you reassure us that things are happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Sherry Ann Grimm.
Good evening. I also support this being expedited, but also just want to remind us a little bit about the history. It concerns me, I guess, when we hear that they're still fighting and hassling over who's going to invest, who's going to pay. And in 2018, Rick Holliday and Dave Finney worked with the City of Vallejo officials to become an opportunity zone, even though they didn't originally qualify due to the census information did not meet the poverty guidelines. If they keep that money in an opportunity fund for 10 years, they stand to make millions in savings from investing, and it's called land banking, what's happening right now. And it's frowned upon by the people who developed opportunity zones, because there was an innate promise in opportunity zones that if you got that capital gains protection, it wasn't just to make you wealthier. You were supposed to invest in a community, a poorer community, and they were supposed to benefit economically, with jobs, with housing, with infrastructure. And that just hasn't happened. And I think when the North Mare Island deal was done, people brought up concerns. We sold that land for $3 million. When it gets rezoned as a result of the specific plan, they stand to make hundreds of millions of dollars on the land that was sold for $3 million. So at some point, I'm asking you to stand up for the people of Vallejo that have waited for 20 years for the benefits of all the promises made by Lennar, by Mare Island Company, by Nimitz, whoever. It hasn't happened. And so I'm really going to ask this council to stand up for the people of Vallejo and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online? All right, seeing none, I am going to move that we give direction to staff that we would like to see the Mare Island infrastructure conversations split into two separate paths, one being an engineering and implementation conversation with regular work group meetings. Myself and Councilmember Palmares can work with staff to figure out the best way to set those up, and that we also engage on a legal pathway with VFWD and engage them on finding a mediator and resolving the ownership issues as soon as possible. With Mare Island Company, yeah, VFWD, Mare Island Company, and the city. And we're definitely including Channel 6A in those conversations. With that, clarifying question?
Yes. Are you intending for Mare Island Company to participate in the mediation as well?
I think we should engage with VFWD first and decide with them if we want to
include that additional party.
Include them, yeah.
And shall we reach out to?
Let's reach out to VFWD first and
about
see.
a mediator
Yeah,
and
exactly.
process.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have a couple clarifying questions. Councilmember
Yes,
Levitt, and then the Vice Mayor.
So I'd like to know how you intend to come back to this council and really keep us abreast on how things are progressing, what the challenges continue to be, so forth and on. Because we were just asked by a constituent, how are we going to hold everyone accountable? So we need to be very clear about reporting back.
Yeah. And Vice Mayor?
And based on information that at least I have seen, and I think we as a council have seen, I think I think Mare Island needs to be part of that legal conversation because they have provided information or documentation of being a part of that legal conversation. So I don't think we can exclude them from that part of it. Yes.
I agree. I think they're part of it. I think my recommendation is that we engage with VFWD, the other public sector partner, first, and make sure we have a vision with them, and then we'll proceed with the three agencies. Does that sound accurate? Go ahead, Councilmember Palmares.
So to Councilmember Ledger's point, I mean, just to be clear, are we ensuring that there will be a city staff member present at every one of these meetings? So I'm thinking, I mean, just like I know our schedules, I'm assuming that that person who is going to be attending could also summarize that report and make sure that gets out, so it's not just completely reliant on us.
Yeah.
Is that something we could do?
And I'll work with the city manager to make sure that we get some format. I think we're still working on what the format is for these updates to come back. But it'll come back if counter direction is needed, but I think we should commit to at least quarterly updates publicly so the community can see it as well. Some of the updates can be written, but some of them can be, at a minimum quarterly public updates on this. Councilmember Gordon.
Yes, I think that is such a great point that my colleague pointed out about having staff through our city manager. Would that be Aaron?
I'll use my discretion to determine who the appropriate staff person is, depending on what the topic is.
And we'll probably need, the idea is that we'll probably need multiple staff because we'll probably need to engage finance and water and the city manager's office, and public works and depending. So it'll be fluid, but it'll definitely be, yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. Are we ready to vote? I see, yep, not seeing any more lights. Let's go ahead and vote.
One more vote. There we go. Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
All right, thank you all. That is going to bring us to our information calendar, and we can make a decision as a council. I know this Broadway project monthly update has been postponed at once already. If we are able to do these updates quickly, we might proceed. We can proceed with them. I think I feel okay about that. We're done with our action. It's 10, and we're done with our action items. So we've hit our goal. Why don't we get these brief information updates, and we'll start with item 10A, which is our Broadway project monthly update. We will go ahead and open up public comment on the item, which we'll take after the staff presentation, and I'll turn it over to our city manager's office team.
I turned it up. Am I on? Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Gillian Hain, Assistant City Manager. We will make this update very brief. It is our final Broadway project update here publicly, as construction has been completed and the project is fully leased up. So we'll run through the slides quickly again. The Broadway project is 47 permanent supportive housing units. It's now 100% complete. Next slide, please. Everything has been executed. The last report we had was in December, and we were expecting to meet the occupancy, HCD occupancy requirement by 12/31, and we did so. The project is completely, fully leased up. There was a water line break, as you remember, and that was to be completed. The fix was to be completed by early January. That was also completed. So everyone's in. There is a wait list. And so as those opportunities arise and open up, we have people waiting in line. Next slide, please. With that, we have worked on submitting the information to HCD, including these rent rolls and the requirements that they have for reporting in order to rectify the city's compliance status with HCD. We're in the process of doing that now. And other than that, that concludes staff's presentation on the project.
All right, thank you. Do we have any commenters in person on this one?
None in person?
And how about online?
None online.
All right, any questions from council? I see Councilmember Gordon.
I want to say thank you very much for your work. I know it hasn't been an easy route, but want to say thank you for everything. And I look forward to the ribbon cutting. Thank you.
Through the mayor, we have a draft date for that. We will send you a save the date. We're looking at Thursday, March 5th. Potentially between 10 and 1 is kind of the draft hours for now. We're working with the operator, Shelter Inc., to find some of the tenants that want to speak about their experience and set up the agendas and whatnot. But we did just set that date this past Monday. So we will send you a save the date for March 5th.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? All right, seeing none, we will move to, thank you both. We will move to item 10B, which is, I'll ask our city clerk to, let's get back to the normal procedure. I'll ask the city clerk to announce this item.
Federal funding updates and impacts to the city of Vallejo.
Thank you. And we have our other assistant, our city manager's office team still here. I'll turn it over to you all for this update. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, City Council, Nalungo Conley, Assistant City Manager. So I have two quick updates. Back in, I think it was either December or January, we brought forth a concept of a program to address some of the issues that our food pantries were facing due to some challenges with federal funding, and so you gave direction on that. So worked with staff to develop a LOI to get some data from all of the sort of food pantry organizations within the city. We're still waiting for the rest of that data to come back, and so we expect that, I think, to close at the end of this month. So we should hopefully be able to bring back, that information and sort of general structure of what that particular program can look like, probably sometime in March. And then the second update is, as you may have heard, Congress has passed pretty much all the appropriations bills except for the one related to Homeland Security. The president hasn't signed them yet, but I don't know if he's waiting to sign them all together or what's going on. So we're just gonna hold our breath, but pretty much everything has been funded except for Homeland Security. There is threats potentially of shutting that down. That'll be over the next week or so, but I don't know that it'll have any impact on city services or programs. And that's it for that update. I'll turn it over to Gillian.
So with that being said, the Housing Choice Voucher Program has been funded through the end of the year. We are still in a shortfall status. So as we had talked in prior meetings, we have gotten a financial analysis scope and created a contingency plan in case there were budget cuts. Those aren't currently on the block for consideration, but the housing department because due to the fact that we are in shortfall based on the number of vouchers that we have and the price that costs and the amount of funding that doesn't match the price of the cost of the vouchers, we have implemented voluntary cost savings measures in the department to protect our tenants as much as possible. And one of those measures that we implemented is a reduction in the payment standards. We were at 120% of fair market rent, and we have the voluntary cost reduction measure is to get it down to between 90 to 110 to take effect in 2027 at the second annual housing recertification inspection. So we have voluntarily done that. We have also frozen our vouchers right now, and we have not opened up our wait list or worked on any additional vouchers because we don't have that funding allocated for those. And then if we need to further look at some of the voluntary measures, there is a freeze on rent increase approvals. But knowing now that we're funded and we're just dealing with our shortfall, we think that the voluntary measure reducing those payment standards right now is a good first step. I was at the National Northern Calneva Naharo Conference 2 weeks ago today in Napa, and we did get to speak to some of the HUD representatives there. And at that time, obviously, the budget wasn't approved. But the conversations, without full commitment, were that they were going to begin moving forward with those in shortfall as they have in past, where they will analyze those that have too much budget that hasn't been spent and move funding as applicable to those in shortfall that don't have enough money to meet the voucher program needs. So now that the budget's been approved, we will connect. I believe next week we have another meeting with our HUD program manager. We will connect on what the next steps are for our shortfall. And then, as I stated, we do have a scope if council is interested in moving forward. We have a scope from a consultant, and the scope, the council directive, it's from Nova Gradac LLC. They came highly recommended from San Jose, Contra Costa, and Santa Clara. They do a lot of housing analysis and running of the numbers in different scenarios. So they looked at, originally they were looking at what a potential 5%, 10%, 20% cut to the program across the board federally how that would impact the city, and then looking at our operating budget to determine what those impacts would be. And that scope for them to look at any sort of scenario impacts is $7,000. So we do have that opportunity to work with them. But at this point, we are happy to say that we are funded through the end of the year for the existing vouchers and the existing program. Happy to answer any questions you may have about that.
Right. Thank you. Before I move to Councilmember Ledeju, do we have any public commenters on this item? I guess in person we'll go first.
None in person.
And then how about online?
None online.
I did forget to announce to open up for public comment, so anyone wishing to comment, especially online, feel free to go ahead and raise your hand and we'll get you in before the end of the item, and I'll pass it over to Councilmember Ledeju.
Thanks. So as it relates to the statement that we're fully funded, we're not fully funded when we're in shortfall, and we still have to wait for approval.
Correct.
So I want to correct that because that's what I thought my ears heard. And so the other thing that, with the tentative work that you have done, could you please share the actual spreadsheet showing, first of all, when we talk about going all the way to 90%, what does that mean as it relates to being able to ensure that individuals are able to rent on the free market, which is with the housing choice voucher? It's not with their project-based voucher. That has a definite impact when we're talking about all the way down to 90%. So what does the 110% look like? Because I know for a fact when you're in shortfall, you have to release that 120 rate down to the standard rate of 110, but you've gone all the way down to 90. So what does that look like? I just would like to see the numbers because I think it's really important. And that is those are the processes when you're in shortfall. And then I think it is important that the work gets done. But while we are paying a consultant to do that work, I would say to the city manager, what analyst on staff could literally shadow those analysts so that they begin to understand how that work is done? Because as long as we are in this particular federal government, there is going to be the continuous threat of human services being cut all the time. So I think it's very important to think about when we're spending money on a consultant, who is being trained to understand that work? Because that is work that could be done easily in-house once someone understands what it looks like. There's a two-year budget tool that will assist them. And so how do we bring people into that work, an analyst into the housing authority to have an understanding so that we don't necessarily have to fully rely on a consultant, but even collaborate with the consultant in that work?
Yes, so through the mayor. So yes, we do have those Excel spreadsheets. I don't have them with me tonight, but I can have Alicia send those out to the full council tomorrow so you can take a look at those scenarios. We meet bi-weekly with our HUD program manager and we run those different scenarios so that we can look at what those potential financial impacts are, and then she gives us her recommendations or her boss's recommendations, and we work together very closely on those to look at the 90% and the 110. Our last discussion with her is yes, we're at 120, and yes, we're funded at our current level, but not to cover our shortfall. Thank you for that clarification. But our HUD program manager, we are all hopeful that hopefully that we will be able to get that when we hit shortfall late summer, August, September timeline, that by then HUD will have done the analysis across the board on all the housing authorities, and we hopefully will get funded that extra, and we won't have to cut down to the 110 or the 90%. But in the worst case scenario, we have those numbers and figures to cover those as well. So we will get that information out to you this week.
Thank you for that clarity. And just like you said, generally, housing authorities have been fortunate, but again, I'm concerned with who our president is and how the administration is handling human services. And we really need to fully understand, and I know that you meet with HUD, we have a 2-year budget tool, but what I'm really trying to get you all to understand is how you bring it before this council and have the discussion. Because in the event that something really does happen, we need to know what does that mean, and we need to be planning and thinking about how do we maintain and make sure that individuals remain house secured. And without you bringing the information forward, we're not able to do that collectively as a body and understand what our responsibilities are to that population who is being served by this deeply affordable housing choice voucher and project-based vouchers. And that is what I'm really trying to get us to understand more importantly.
Councilmember Gordon.
Real quick, thank you. I just want to know if you can be able to give me a call offline to be able to clarify some questions that may need more time. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna check one more time for public comment just to make sure. All right, we're not seeing any. Thank you both, and I think we had set this up as an ongoing item. I don't know that we'd set a frequency, but I think we had wanted to continue these conversations. I think especially the housing is probably going to be the most acute. I'll speak in my update about some of the things I've heard regarding immigration enforcement, but it seems like the housing piece is going to be one of the most critical in the coming months. So we'll keep this item going, and with that, I think we can go ahead and close the item and move on to our next item, which is 11, the city manager's report.
Thank you. Just briefly, 2 items. The city will be launching a website tomorrow to recognize Black History Month that'll have information about local events and educational resources about Black history and some of our local resources. And the council had requested a catalog of the various council direction at council meetings, and we have a draft of that I'm just finalizing with city staff, and we'll be publishing that for the council and public after city council reviews it and provides their comments, which I'm hoping to send to you within a week. So those are my updates.
All right, thank you. That's going to bring us to item 12, City Attorney's Report.
I kind of already talked about the one I was going to report earlier, so I don't have anything additional.
I'm assuming neighborhood law. Yeah. All right, thank you. That is going to bring us to item 13, our second community forum. So members of the public that did not address the council in the first forum, but that wish to address the council on items not on tonight's agenda, this is your opportunity. We'll double check and see if we have anyone remaining in person.
I would have to defer to Manny. There's an entry on here that says CLR.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yeah, I saw that as well. Might have been a member of the public that was struggling with inputting their name or something, but is there a member of the public that signed up for Community Forum earlier that did not get to speak, who were interested in speaking tonight?
We're scanning the room and not seeing anyone. Thank you. Also, do we have anyone online?
No one online at this time.
All right, with that, we will close our community forum, and that will bring us to item 14, requests and actions for future agenda items or special projects. We do have a great list that we are working through, and if council members would like to add anything to that list, now is the time.
Point of clarification, I
Yes.
think we still have the clock running for community forum.
Oh, we do. You know what? Let's go ahead and do this. Thank you for that, Vice Mayor. So why don't we go ahead and do this, and then we'll come back and just make sure no one raised their hand for community forum. I see Councilmember Ledescu. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. One of the things that I'd like to propose and bring back, and it's my omission for not doing this for the consent calendar, but it's regarding the fire department's grant and for the SAFER grant. I'd like to ask that this come back as it relates to a discussion around the budget, because when we get to year 3, there's going to be a significant cost escalation to the city, and I really would like to have a dialogue around how this is going to reduce overtime by taking on this grant, but how we really are going to be funding our cost share. And so again, it's my omission for letting it get by me and realizing it was the consent calendar after I did my homework on it. But I'm very concerned. I think yes, it's a grant, it's wonderful, and I'm not opposed to it, but we need some reporting on a monthly basis, and it just goes back into budget discussion, overtime, how these dollars are going to be allocated, and how we continuously ensure that we're able to fund our portion of it. And then after this grant is over within 3 years and we've hired these individuals, how are we actually absorbing the costs? So this needs to be a deeper conversation. Grant money is great. I'm happy to have it, but the reality is there's a cost. It is not free. And at the end of the day, we have to figure out how we're going to absorb those positions. So we need to bring this back and have monthly reporting and really pay attention to this work. So I'm asking that this be added and put in however we're doing our monthly discussions now, ongoing.
I want to make a suggestion. Thank you for bringing that up. My suggestion would be that I like the idea of it coming back with a budget, and I wonder if we could include, if there are any other grant funded, can we bring back any grant funded positions with the long-term funding strategies as part of our budget discussion? And Councilmember Ledescu, just to make sure, I really like that idea, and I don't know that we need to vote on that. I'm kind of looking to the city manager. I think maybe we can just make that ask. But Councilmember Ledescu, you mentioned monthly updates. Was there something particular that you wanted to agendize, or are you okay with just with having it come back with the budget?
I wanted to come back with the budget, but I want to see monthly reporting out on this around how we're reducing overtime, because we're getting X amount of dollars, and it, in the staff report it says, oh, it's going to reduce overtime. Well, how are we ensuring that it's reducing overtime? How are we managing the overtime overall? So these are just things that I'm concerned about when I think about budget over long term, and as we are trying to unravel this coming fiscal year.
Thank you. I'm
So
going to
thank you.
I'm going to ask the city manager, do you want us to vote on that, or is that sufficient direction for us
Uh,
to come back in the budget?
Yeah, well, actually, I think let me take a closer look at the grant. If it needs to be executed sooner than the budget conversation, we'll bring it back before then, because I want the council to have an opportunity to have the conversation.
We already approved the grant, it's just.
Right. We approved it in
Okay.
the consent calendar, and I made a mistake
Okay.
by not pulling it.
Okay,
So I'm
yeah, we-
owning my mistake by not pulling it and asking questions. But more importantly, I really want to have a discussion. I'm not trying to stop you from moving forward with
Okay.
applying as you should, but I want to bring it back, and from a budget perspective, as well as some monthly cadence or bi-monthly cadence, to really talk about how is this grant shaping up from overtime perspective, reducing our overtime and our cost, and how are we funding this on an annual basis. And when we get to the third year, there is a much higher requirement of us. And then after that third year, when the grant is over, those positions that have come on as a result of this grant, how are we funding it? And we need to know that. We really need to be charting out over the next 3 years, if we hire 10 individuals or however many it is, that we have cost savings, we have money, we have done something to prepare to have those staff remain here.
Got it. Yep, understood. Yeah, we'd be great if you voted on it. That's our practice with referrals, but understand we can bring that back as part of the budget.
Okay, so we're voting to direct staff to bring this back as part of the budget with a regular cadence of reporting. Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Yeah, and we're adding, yep, any grant-funded positions to come back for the budget. Thank you for raising that. And to your point of the error in not pulling it, I don't want to speak for all of us, but I don't think we would have denied the grant funding. I think the most important thing is what you just stated, that we have a plan for what we're going to do when this grant expires. All right, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And I brought up this issue in my specific one-on-one meetings with our city manager. I want to thank the city manager for bringing this or disseminating this throughout his team. But since Thanksgiving break or around the Thanksgiving time up to now, there's been a significant increase in gang graffiti going up in at least in the Rancho area, specifically around Dan Minnie Elementary School. And so he's got his team working on that. My concern is I've just noticed that in the Rancho area, and whether this may be a citywide issue, I would like to see if that this is actually being addressed. And this goes beyond the Blythe issue. This is more of a public safety for our youth, because at Dan Minnie Elementary, that's an elementary school, and if the gangs are trying to get into at that young age, I want to make sure that we're addressing that, and it's part of our plan to keep this addressed. And this may be, and I'm posing this up to the rest of my council members, that putting policy in place or putting some sort of ordinance in there that we're addressing this and not letting this slip off. That it's because this is one of those things that can easily be bypassed, and I just want to make sure that this is an issue that we just doesn't slip by us.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember.
I was just wondering if somebody were to report that through C-Click Fix, is that how that normally gets addressed, or?
It would. I mean, that could be a code issue, or it could be a maintenance of city property issue, so yeah.
But something like that, if it was reported, that would be addressed through the city
Yeah.
quickly. Okay.
And to highlight, I think this brings up the program of the VFOG that probably most citizens aren't aware of, that would address a lot of things that if your fence is tagged or has some graffiti put on it, that is something that the city can help support. And I think a lot of citizens may not be aware of that, and I think that's something that we can help highlight.
All right, Councilmember Gordon, you were going to support this item.
Yes, I just want to emphasize something, that there are buildings that, and our infrastructure ourselves are being tagged, whether it be buildings that, or bridges. It's happening all over. And so it's not only private property but it's also becoming city property as well, at least in my particular district. Someone with blue ink or spray, they're just tagging everything. So I wanted to say, yeah, I would like to vote on that and support that.
All right. And what I'll add, just one comment to that, and then we can vote on it, is this is also the type of thing that, you see, we have a lot of, I think, untapped young people and folks that want to volunteer in the community. Painting over graffiti is one of the most, low intensity, easy types of volunteer projects. We might have community groups or organizations that would be interested in having volunteer days to do that type of thing. So I'd love to add that to the conversation, not necessarily using city funds or resources, but just allowing us to maybe using our system of see, click, fix as we identify if we have a backlog, finding community groups we can partner with. So I would support adding that to our list and bringing that back. Let's go ahead and vote on it at the vice mayor's, vice mayor's proposal.
Mayor, I didn't announce the vote you took on Councilmember Ledige's request. That carried unanimously.
Thank you. I forgot that we were taking all these individual votes. Let's vote on the vice mayor's request now. Yeah, that's a great one. That's a good one. Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
All right. I see Councilmember Gordon.
Yes, I'd like to see if I can get my colleagues to please help me. In my district, our lighting is horrible. I mean, it is really bad. And so I would like to know if we can ask staff to do a scope of areas that are really challenging. Even in District 1, is challenging in that area as well, but really in my district, lighting is either so dim that you can't even, it's not really supporting the community, but to brighten up our lights is really crucial. So I'd like to know if we can ask, well, he's gone already, if we can get that support, and I'll even drive with you and show you areas that are really challenging, especially around bus stops where people are waiting for buses. It's really challenging. Thank you. Could I get do we have to vote on that?
We will, but I see the vice mayor and Councilmember Bergenser, who I think both have quick comments on this. Let's go.
I think I think Councilmember Bergenser and I are going to kind of talk about the same. We've brought this up in the past, quite a few, and it goes beyond just street lighting, but in general in specific neighborhoods. And I can highlight the Crest specifically to where if you're there at night, there are certain areas that are pretty much pitch black. That I think we have identified, and so I think that's probably a city-wide thing that we have actually looked to. And when we go to these Cal City conferences, we speak to a lot of these lighting consultants to where they can help provide some of the issues. This is an ongoing thing, and we've actually, I think we've put resolutions put together that this was supposed to be looked at. And a report brought back to us. I think this was prior to City Manager Murray's time here. So this is probably one of the things that I think it could be an ongoing thing, but it's a matter that we need to understand where we're at now and how can we address this.
I was also going to, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to actually bring this up during our mid-year budget cycle, but to try to carve out money or add planning for this, because a lot of the lights now that we're installing are solar, and so it's like a one-time cost to add lighting to an area. It doesn't take much to put those poles in, and it doesn't take much, obviously, just the sun to keep them going. So, but there's even areas like the waterfront that are very dark, with the lights are missing and stuff. So I think we need a citywide plan, and we need to long-term be planning lighting infrastructure for our city for safety.
Thank you all.
Through the chair, real quick,
that's a
Mayor.
low-hanging. I want to get ACM Conley's been.
Yes, so just to jump in on behalf of Director Alcantar, because he's not here, we actually had this discussion as it related to the public safety issues with pedestrian fatalities along Sonoma, and so I actually reached out to Public Works. We actually put in the mid-year budget funds to do lighting replacement. So I don't know yet that we have a plan, but we've budgeted an appropriate amount. Most of the lights in the city, they're solar. They are kind of at end of life. They last about 10 years. And these are about 8.5 years. So we put the money in the budget to do the light replacement. I don't know if he has a full lighting plan scoped out, but the money's already there, so we can reach out to him and have him bring that back.
Thank you for that. Why don't we vote? Councilmember Gordon, you had a quick comment, and then we'll vote on it.
I like to call it a campaign called Brighten Up Vallejo. Can we agree, give it a name, a campaign called Brighten Up Vallejo?
We can do that when we actually agendize it. For now,
I like
we're
that idea.
Gonna do it.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor, real quick.
I was going to point out that this actually came up, speaking of the Sonoma Boulevard upgrades, this actually came up in our STA, one of our committee meetings. And the fact that I expressed that our hands have been tied with a lot of the recommendations we've brought up along Sonoma Boulevard due to the Caltrans. And so speaking with Darrell Halls, he had mentioned that we should just reach out to STA to help support some of these conversations that we've been having, as they can help, I guess, the way they put it, facilitate some of our concerns that have been falling on deaf ears from our perspective with Caltrans, because they're the ultimate say in what goes on with a lot of the stuff with the Sonoma upgrade. And the fact it's already in construction, he offered his STA to help support some of the concerns that we have, and hoping Caltrans can be amenable to a lot of this.
I don't know if it happened last city council, but we did have a meeting with Caltrans and STA about safety improvements along Sonoma Boulevard. So with that, State Route 29 project, they're going to be adding a lot more lighting. Of course, that's only on that 6-mile stretch, and they're putting in a lot of safety improvements. But I think what you're talking about is just overall the entire city. So not just the State Route 29. We actually I spoke to Oscar about the waterfront lighting, because I know that there was some complaints about how dark it was, similar to right outside here at City Hall. So I think those are, I don't know when they're scheduled to be replaced, but we can check in on that as well.
Thank you. Why don't we go ahead and vote on this, where this is helpful, and we're pushing it into substantive discussion, but I think it's important to articulate the importance of the item, and we'll make sure that that gets brought back. Did everybody vote?
Yes, and the motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias opposite.
All right. With that, let's move on to Councilmember Gordon is another future item, or are you going to council comments? All right, we're going to go to 15, report of presiding officer and members of the city council. We'll start with Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you so much. As you can see, I am passing something to each of my colleagues, and I have some extras at home. So I'll bring them to you all. If you, I had the honors to attend the day Action Against Human Trafficking, and had the honors to hear my colleagues speak, Dr. Councilwoman Letiju, and this was something that was overwhelming, because we heard live experienced individuals that have been unfortunately experiencing with the human trafficking program. But what I wanted to highlight also, Vallejo PD was mentioned multiple times, celebrating their moving forward program, and also they were mentioned as being examples of what other cities can do. So I want to celebrate that. The room was completely packed, and I was just overwhelmed with the conversation. It was heartbreaking, sure, because a lot of them spoke from being a child that was being human trafficking and not having service available to them and not knowing what it looked like. But once again, they utilized what Vallejo PD has started, and that they, as a county, and I believe Napa was there as well, emphasize Vallejo very much, and we want to celebrate that. I was very proud to hear that we, as Vallejo, already started moving, and so we want to celebrate them for that. So I just handed you the folder for that. I also had the honors to attend Touro University student-run free clinic celebration of service, which is throughout, I believe they do service throughout the city of Vallejo, but they have a clinic at the Norman King Center and also at Emmanuel Temple. They honor me with a card, and I want to read it. Dear Councilwoman Helen Marie Gordon, thank you so much for supporting our student-run free clinic celebration of service, especially for the healing plate, which I want to give GVRD compliments because they let them utilize their kitchen space at no charge. We truly appreciate your advocacy and dedication to the Vallejo community. Best regard, the executive board of the student-run free clinic. It was wonderful, well-attended. We have outgoing, and those outgoing will be utilizing space at our hospitals, whether it be Kaiser, Sutter, and then they introduced a new board. And I want to give Izzy Drumley a compliment. She is the director of the Norman King Center, and she too was honored and recognized. Thank you so much for that. Oh, one more important thing. The elite basketball girls, they won against their last competition here at the school, and trust me, presents make a difference because they won tremendously high, and I was just very proud of them. They went from hardly nothing to winning the game, and I want to highlight everyone who was there, so thank you for that.
All right, Councilmember Ledeju.
Thanks. So just really quickly, I've been really interested to determine, especially with the Super Bowl coming and our soccer, national soccer teams coming together, just all of the human trafficking issues that are associated with that, and the fact of immigration is a huge challenge at this moment in time. So I had an opportunity to attend the third convening of the Bay Area leaders focused on immigration resources and services. And a joint statement was actually released by all the county supervisors. This is across our 9 Bay Area counties. And I went with Supervisor James and other fellow regional leaders reaffirming their commitment to supporting immigrant communities, which was really important, about shared priorities around protecting access to legal services, strengthening rapid response networks, and ensuring families have clear information about available resources. I've also joined their law enforcement work group, which is a monthly work group that these county leaders are having, because I think it's really important from not just a county perspective, but what are we doing at our city level as well. And that just dovetails nicely into the work that I've been doing along with Councilmember Palmeras and Matias and our chief of police and his team. And also and thank you, Councilmember Gordon. I did also attend and spoke at the Day of Action Against Human Trafficking. Sane Sart, who actually sponsored the event, held the event along with many other sponsors, actually attends our monthly safety meetings, because we are doing having a lot of conversation around human trafficking, around the underground economy, and how we are really going to address what's happening in our city, what's happening on Sonoma Boulevard, Marin, if you will. And just, we recently saw a notice where our police department actually about 2 weeks ago, or less than 2 weeks ago, arrested someone around human trafficking. So, you know, this work is real, it's very important, and lives matter. And so in our safety meeting, we're really having a lot of discussion around how we humanize the individuals who are actually being harmed in this work, and it's very important to me. And I'm also attending our Solano County Movement Against Human Trafficking, which also has Sane Start, Love Never Fails, our Solano Sheriff Office. And so the goal is to increase those partners in this work that we're doing across Solano County. So thank you for that. Oh, that's it. You can have it.
All right. Anyone else? All right, I'll close this out very briefly. So I did miss our most recent council meeting because I was in DC for the U.S. Conference of Mayors winter meeting, and unfortunately a giant snowstorm hit and my flight got canceled and then delayed, and so I was on the plane during the council meeting and didn't have a chance to do as much advocacy as we would have liked. However, it was an incredibly valuable meeting and a wonderful organization that is quite possibly the last bipartisan organization left in American politics and incredibly important right now in pushing back on the federal government. And there were a lot of conversations around housing and, lobbying the administration on the impacts of the immigration enforcement, the cuts to housing vouchers, HUD, Medicaid. And so I'm really grateful for the colleagues and glad that Vallejo is at that table because it's just going to be tremendously important going forward. And, we get access to some additional resources through them that we're starting to pursue now that we're members, and we'll hopefully have some exciting updates soon. The City County Coordinating Council, I mentioned a few months ago that we are trying to align our 7 cities in our county on some legislative priorities. And so I think I had mentioned back maybe in November that I was going to request the city manager either provide our most recent legislative priorities to me to take to the 4 Cs, or we bring them back to council to if we need to reset on it or pick any. And so we're going to want to do that in the next month or two so that we can kind of hopefully align with our county and get some resources. And then the last item I wanted to close with really quickly was just an update kind of to the community to state on the record that, we are trying to streamline these meetings. The new vice mayor and I are going to be, trying to work and improve the agendas and get us done sooner. But we also do have a lot of really big items coming. So the public has probably seen that we've been spending a lot of time in closed session. We've got labor negotiations. We've got performance evaluations. We are going to be doing our goal setting. We're going to be doing our next year's budget. We still do want to engage the community on that budget as we did last year, but it's going to be very intense as we schedule all of these conversations and we try to move the work forward. And we're going to ask the community to please stay tuned and maybe for a little bit of grace as we try and get everything on the calendar in the next 3 or 4 months with this council. So I just wanted to name that and say you're going to see this council going into closed session a lot, and you're going to see us probably scheduling a couple of community meetings or workshops. We also had the evaluator report for the police reform come out recently, the year 1 evaluator report. So that's going to be coming back to the community. So there's just going to be a lot coming in the next few months, and we'll be providing all of that as soon as we have that information and those dates and those details. So with that, I will adjourn us at 10:53 p.m.